evening, and welcome to Los Fumar Takes. This is our 351st take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show. The annual Top 10 Cigars of 2025 is going to be unveiled tonight. Here we go. And it is so excited. But before we get to formal introductions of our special guest of honor, we do have to thank the people that make this show possible, and that, of course, is our sponsors. And tonight's show is brought to you by Drew Estate. Drew Estate is at it once again with the unveiling of the all-new LE Lancero sizes for Blackened by Drew Estate Cigars, M81 and S84. Drew Estate is lighting up the stage once again with its Blackened by Drew Estate cigar, delivering an encore that's tailor-made for hardcore cigar heads and collectors alike. Introducing the first ever Lancero size for both the Blackened M81 and Blackened S84 cigars, a 7x40 vitola crafted for those who crave precision, complexity, and full throttle flavor. Each Lancero expression will be a limited production and presented in elegant 15-count boxes, making this drop an instant collectible for fans of both the M81's bold Maduro on Maduro profile and the S84's refined yet electrifying Connecticut shade experience. Check out your Drew Diplomat retailers today for these amazing collector's items from Drew Estate. And welcome, everybody. This is our 351st take. If you're tuning in to us live on Facebook, like we broadcast nearly every week live on Facebook, or checking us out later on our YouTube channel, our video broadcast is always courtesy of our good friends at Foundation Cigars. FoundationCigars.com. Check out FoundationCigars.com today for all the latest and greatest from our good friend Nick Melillo. Nick Melillo is a well-known cigar maker in the premium cigar industry. He is the founder and owner of Foundation Cigars, which produces a range of high-quality handcrafted cigars. His values include quality, consistency, balance, and flavor. Check out FoundationCigars.com today. And if you're tuning into us later, we're on podcasts wherever you listen to podcasts, including on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You're listening to us courtesy of our good friends at Gran Habano Cigars. Honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today. Check out all of our good times on audio podcasts wherever you listen to podcasts, courtesy of our good friends at Gran Habano. And welcome, everyone. This is our 351st take. A little rusty here. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on, but it is our top 10 cigars of 2025 unveiling, and we can't do this without our very special guest who is joining us once again for this unveiling. We'll go through all the special details and everything, but let's get to introductions. Introducing our special guest tonight, which is sponsored by United Cigars. Smoke one today and start living United. It's Mr. George Brightman. George, how are you doing tonight?
Great to see you, Bear, and thanks. It's a privilege to be here with you tonight. I always look forward to this. I was sort of jonesing this afternoon, going, I gotta wait until 10:30 to start going through the cigars that I saved out of your annual package, right? And so I'm burning number 3, but I'm really excited.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to tonight.
Absolutely, man. Thank you, George. Yeah, we're smoking number 3 together. We lit it up just before the show started. Normally I ask my guests what we're going to smoke. But tonight, considering we're unveiling the top 10 cigars of 2025, we decided to light up number 3 together. And George still has to smoke number 2 and number 1. But we'll go through that, all the details and everything. But just to kind of summarize it, this is the fourth time that George is joining me on my top 10 cigars unveiling. I asked him a few years ago, just kind of on a whim, and had this idea, and George thought it was really great. So how it works is I send you my top cigars blind. So I package them in plain packaging, label them just what their rank are, where I put them in the top 10. Yep. You smoke them and you give your honest to goodness feedback on each and every one. And we've had some surprises along the way, including the first year. I think your favorite cigar was my number 2 cigar of the year. And it was also just happened to be the least expensive on the list. And that was Artista Cigars Buffalo 10 Connecticut, which is still a fantastic cigar.
Still a fantastic cigar, still a great prize. It's the kind of thing that justifies how you keep your eyes on something like this.
Hmm.
The basis for a top 10 list should always be service to your audience, service to your friends. You want to turn them on to how you see the crop, and being able to look back across an entire year of reviews and releases and things that are there, and then cull through, narrow it down to the 10. And when one of your favorite cigars that you arrive at, again, essentially smoking blind when you're trying to rank them, turns out to be a bargain.
Hmm.
Forget the idea that, oh well, we know today's market, there's a wide spread of price, but quality doesn't always follow.
Right.
So discovering the gem, discovering the cigar that sneaks up on you is always one of the rewards, and one of the reasons why I hope more and more and more people pay attention to more than one uh, list of end of year bests, and they can be categorized. But uh, we all know there's one that everybody thinks about and holds their breath and spends their time. I mean, you could probably open a gambling market on FanDuel about which company is going to get the number one cigar
For
from
sure.
from that certain list. Anyway,
Yeah, I think
I'm happy to be here, and I like doing this with you because I think this is a ground level examination. I proposed to you last year, and we have something going, which we'll talk about later.
mhm.
An idea that I put forth. But this list, the beauty of this is, theoretically at least, none of this should be out of reach of anybody.
Yeah.
Right? You might have to do, in some instances, you might have to do a little work, but these are choices that reflect what you can see in a brick and mortar shop.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty well balanced a lot. There's been a number of years where there's been cigars that are a little bit more, it's been a little bit more boutique heavy. Then there's been years where it's been a little bit more balanced, and then, a little bit more on the larger company side heavy this year. So, potentially, I think, but we'll see. We'll see how it kind of comes up out and everything. Um, Coop's already told me what his prediction is for my number one cigar, so I'm gonna let his prediction hang out in the ether, and let's see how he
Yeah.
does. But um, but
Well,
speaking but speak
what you want to do is wait and see. We ought to have a little thumbnail of Coop watching when we get to number one.
yeah. He usually tags along live, and he usually the last couple of years he's been close on a few. One year he completely nailed it, which was nice and fun. And then, but I like lately, I've like the last couple of years, I've been being a little bit more close to the vest because I want some of that mystery there, at least for even with some of my
Yeah.
my some of my closest friends and stuff and colleagues in the industry. So, but
No, it should be. You should be holding it. You should be holding on to it, not just for the artificial drama of a reveal, but because this time of year, all of us that are out there and sort of scanning the horizon and paying attention.
mhm.
And when you're in a blind evaluation process, you don't want to be influenced by other people. You need to do it in a vacuum, more or less,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? So I don't really, when I'm thinking about what I thought was the best effort, um, I don't really care what other people have nominated, right? Because I'm trying to speak from my experience and my evaluation without, all of the hoopla, all of
Yeah.
the marketing and the storytelling that goes along. Even as recently as 4 or 5 years ago, you didn't have as much window dressing around what was happening with the brand, and you didn't have so much navel gazing, with people sitting there saying, "Oh, look, we made X, Y, Z," and you know, self-aggrandizement, building up their own case. It should always be for other people who are trying to be objective and who are trying to maintain integrity in terms of their evaluation process. They're the ones that should say, this is a winner. This should be on everybody's top 10 list, not the manufacturer.
Yeah. A lot of I feel like there's been a lot. It's interesting because the cigar prices have started to soar in the last few years. I feel like the pomp and circumstances are like at an all-time high. And listen, I'm a sucker for the story. So like bring on the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people that I'm a sucker for it. Like I want to hear the story. I want to hear the background. Like give me all the BS and the non-BS and just like, enchant me with your with your words about what makes this tobacco and this cigar special. I'm all about it. So
But
but I think
learning the
it's been as
story,
winners.
and learning the story and hearing the background is not the same as marketing hype and
Okay, that's
and
fair.
ginning up the flames of attention.
Yeah, okay.
To me, there's a difference.
No, I think
Anyway,
that's
go
fair.
ahead.
I think that's fair. Yeah, for sure. I think it's just
Yeah.
like to your point, I think that it's just that it's what I've noticed on both sides of the spectrum. It's just like the it's just been at an all-time high the last few years. Like I think that like it's just about more and more and more people and I think that's also because the consumer education is an all-time high. And
All time high. Exactly what
it's interesting what
I
became
agree.
what I think is really cool how things have kind of come full circle and kind of simplicity. Like, um, you know, for years, for a really nice long stretch there, it was all about the wrapper binder filler, and there was like all this detail in the tobacco, and that was great. Like, I'm not, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But we're kind of, especially in particular with media, we're kind of coming around full circle a little bit, and it's a little bit more of a simple approach aspect of just like tell us the story, tell us the approach, like what was the methodology and why was this project necessary? Where does it fit in the portfolio? A little bit more of the
The why than the what.
yeah, so yeah, a little bit more and a little bit more obtuse too. There's no formula to like to the interesting part of these particular cigars. Like having their like the story of like we heard the advertisement for the new Lanceros from Drew Estate at the very top of the show. The story's already been told about that, but it's like, oh well, why are we doing the Lanceros? Like what's this, what's particularly special about them?
Yeah.
Where does it fit in the brand's dynamic and portfolio and stuff like that? So I think there's a lot more there's a lot more it's a lot more obtuse, it's a lot more but it's also a lot more simple at the same time. It's not as fine detailed.
Well, I don't. Yeah, but I'm always. This is maturing of the marketplace. In other words, this is ripening of the customer and their level of knowledge and engagement. I always used to tell people, like I'd be sitting with reps watching stuff, and I'd take them aside and go, "Listen, man, don't lead with telling them that it's in Ecuador, Connecticut, and there's a Nicaraguan binder and Dominican filler, because 90% of the people that you are talking to, that does not translate into understanding of what they should expect.
Right.
Just giving that information is not sufficient service to the consumer who's genuinely interested in experimenting with something. Because people, first of all, Nicaraguan binder, what does that mean? Nothing, because there's nothing specific about it. Dominican filler, think about all of these things that have happened. Think about all the farms. Think about all the seed types, all these things that are there. It's just when you those terms have almost become generic. It's like Kleenex and Xerox and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They don't have use to the consumer. And by the way, when you tell them something exotic, like, by the way, there's a really small farm in Matafina Sud in Brazil, and these guys are raising this tobacco. First of all, nobody knows what Brazilian tobacco they might know what it smells like if you actually burned it in front of them and they say, "Oh, I recognize that." But in terms of translating into a taste experience, they have no that doesn't mean anything to them. And remember, we always have to think about cigar stories and the things that we do and how we share. We want to reach the largest possible audience. It's not about preaching to the 2% that are as hip as us.
For sure. Absolutely. So on that note, before we kind of kick things off into the unveiling, wanted to go ahead get this knocked out of the way. It's Coop's favorite segment of the show, which is my honorable mentions. Um,
Oh, cool.
so these are the I and these are in no particular order, and
Mhm.
these are five limited edition cigars. That because they're ineligible for a number of reasons under the criteria, which we'll go into in just a little bit, but mostly because they're not regular production or regular limited production. Um, so they either narrowly missed by criteria, but they're still standouts. And I wanted to spotlight them like I normally do. So um,
You're throwing them a bone.
yeah. But this one I'm really excited about. I happen to personally know the guy who he started off as just a regular old consumer, worked in retail, and then just has really kind of thrown himself into the industry. Tyler Jeffrey has created his own micro brand under the umbrella of Nico Sueño, where Skip Martin produces Romacraft cigars and Pestania cigars
Yep.
for Mike Stefankevich and a couple of other brands that are produced out of there and Tyler's put in the work. He's gone down to Nicaragua. He's put together blends. He's sorted tobacco. He's learned the ropes and this is actually his second. He's actually put out two cigars at Nicosueña, and then he's done another one with his good friend Mo Mali of Patina Cigars. But his second cigar, the Viso Horny Triple Nickel, the Robusto Extra, broadleaf for Nicaraguan smoke, U.S.
Wait.
broad.
Did you say Viso horny?
Viso Horny is the name. Yeah, is the name of his brand. Yeah,
Oh my God, that's pretty good, man. Sorry, that
yeah.
was a new one on me. I didn't mean to. I don't want to interrupt your flow,
No,
but
it's
I like
okay.
that. That's great.
It's
Viso
his.
horny
It was his Instagram handle, and he just kind of rolled with it as kind of his
dynamite.
brand name, which is yeah, I loved it. So
Hmm.
yeah, U.S. broadleaf wrapper, Cameroon binder on it, and yeah, I thought it was incredibly well put together, really well balanced considering the tobaccos that were involved with it, and you know,
Yeah,
it just was pretty interesting all around, and again for a micro blend and a micro brand, I thought it was just really interesting. So I was fortunate to smoke one of these with Tyler, and then I got myself a few more. After he released them at PCA last year, and he's I mean he's building it. So like he has a distributor now, and Mike at Pestania handles his distribution and everything. So I mean sounds
oh
like
cool. So
he's not.
fulfillment
Yeah.
through.
So it sounds like he's not going. I mean, he's not going anywhere, I really want to applaud
He's not
Skip
going
for that.
away.
Yeah, I really think that if he keeps at
Dynamite.
it, there's a lot of potential there. There's a lot of potential there. And I really enjoyed the blend. I thought it was fantastic. So, the next one is
Well, good on you for shouting him out.
oh, absolutely. So the next one was, you know, this company. It's been no secret I've loved for a long time. They've made a number of lists. In fact, three consecutive top three runs. They put out a limited edition last year. James Brown's Black Label Trading Company, the Super Deluxe 2025 Petite Corona, Mexican San Andreas Wrap Cigar, uh, out of and was just really I really love the oak and pepper out of this particular blend. It just was a really medium to full, just bold cigar that I thought was really, really well done. That size vitola is really, can be difficult. Um, but James has always really had a heart for the what we call the aficionado sizes of particular cigars. There's always um, smaller vitola, smaller ring gauges, and just being, just producing some really unique vitolas out of his factory and stuff. So I really liked it. Did you happen to smoke the Super
You
Deluxe?
know, no, I haven't, and I'll correct that. But I just wanted to say one thing, uh, and I applaud them for doing this work. But what you just described, the way you said it, smaller cigars. You know what we used to call them? Cigars,
Cigars.
because that's what the sizes were. You just said, hey, it's a nice cigar. You didn't have to say, oh, it's a Petit Corona or a Lonsdale or anything. You didn't have to apologize for it. It's a cigar. That's what it was. And a number one, like a classic like that was just, widely known, widely considered. Now we have to say, remember, this is how the cigar business was built. These are the sizes that defined the industry for a couple of 100 years. It's only in a very recent span of time that cigars have begun to resemble Americans' bodies.
Yeah, it's strange because like you mentioned before, like these some of these long-standing brands that have been around forever, like when you think of like Arturo Fuente, like Curly Heads and Curly Head Deluxes and stuff like that, like those were the standard sizes. I mean, those are just really
Yeah,
short, skinny cigars, and
it's a
that was just
cigar. That's what you could buy. And by the
yeah,
way, those cigars were always within reach. In other words, they were never about, and obviously, if you were thinking about it, they would still be affordable today. They wouldn't be the way they were when they were launched and created and put into a market that, listen, when that stuff started being made, an expensive cigar was 65 cents,
God, those are the
right? So let's be real. As look, there's no question that the boom fostered the money from the sales getting to farmers. And when you have extraordinary tobacco in so many different corners being grown now, combining them in new and different ways is rewarding. And I think one of the ways that some ambitious cigar makers have created an identity for themselves is by making very complex blends that are big by necessity, not
mhm.
because they needed to make a 60 ring gauge cigar, but because when they were making a 50 ring gauge cigar, they couldn't deliver exactly the same thing. So I have I've slightly moved to say there are some people who make things like that deserve attention, deserve respect, and they are worthy of consideration for every kind of plaudit, whether it's just, hey, you should go buy that at your store, or it's going to make one of the best cigars I smoke. But the important thing to remember is that's relatively new. And when they first started coming out, I was like, it's a fad. It's going to go away because it's going to be too expensive to make these. And because if you're by weight, by volume, there's a lot of money tied up in that. So they better be good and they better sell.
Right.
And I've been proven wrong. In other words, there's an ongoing audience for oversized cigars. But let's be clear. I don't. I push back against two things consistently: the idea that you have to describe a Corona or a Lonsdale or a typical old fashioned Toro or even a Robusto, as it was back in the day when Robusto became a name that people recognized. Those are not small cigars, those are cigars. The other cigars are the jumbo ring, they're the outliers. They are the things. And the other thing, you and I, we've talked about this before. I hate it when people a certain kind of cigar snob goes, "Oh, New World cigars," like Cuba isn't part of the New World.
Right.
So I hate that. When I hear that, I know exactly what the person is coming at me with, and I look. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but there are certain facts that need to be respected. Anyway, forget that. That
Yeah,
doesn't matter. I want you to go on to, but
no problem. That's a great
you were
call out
talking
though.
about,
I
yeah.
really want to applaud that call out because it's actually driven me crazy and I've never said anything, George. I've never said anything,
But it's
and you're the first person to say like that I've had a conversation with that said, "Why do you call the Cubans? Why do you exclude Cuba out of the New World?" Because like I'm like the New World. This was
right.
the entire New World, but they use that terminology, and I'm
Yeah.
like, so I've just never argued with it, but it's always
It's
bothered me.
ridiculous. It's
It's
so
always bothered me.
arbitrary. And I call people, I say, what basis, where did you hear that? Who told you that Cuba's the old country and all these other people are the new world? That's bullshit. What you should correctly say is the cigars that are a result of the Cuban diaspora. We are all living in a garden filled with incredible flowering of the cigar making art as a result of the embargo and people leaving.
Right. Because by that definition, this is why it's always bothered
Anyway,
me. By that definition, Toscano cigars is included in the New World cigar definition. I'm like, but they're a European company.
yeah, come on.
Yeah, like it's just so it yeah, it's always bothered me. All right, next
They've
participation
been
trophy
making
is Coke.
cigars as long as the Spanish monopoly.
Yeah,
Right.
as Coop calls it, the participation trophy. The next one, this is our third one on the list. Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, the year of the Duke 2025. Ecuadorian Rosado wrapper with San Andreas binder and Nicaraguan and Pennsylvania fillers. A fantastic cigar, an even better story. So Steve created this project to honor his friend Chris Duke, who's been a tireless supporter of him since the brand's inception, but even before that. Chris is just an all-around great guy, great supporter of the industry. I know he's a fan of the show too. And Steve created this blend for him based on what Chris likes, and um, I really really enjoyed it too. And it was another one of those what you would call uh, George cigars. It was a smaller vitola,
Yeah,
and just packed a lot of
exactly.
flavor, and it was great. It was great. So did you happen to sample any of those?
No, I people I heard it talked about and I was, you know, look, I tell people all the time, Saka has a terrific lineup, and I encourage people to visit it. But I don't. I'm not on the preferred info list. I don't hear the new releases and stories or anything like that. So I just have to see. And in my sort of in my travels, I haven't run across one. But when I
Well,
do, I know exactly what I'm going to do.
yeah, I'm gonna grab one for you. I still have some left over, which are just fantastic. So the next cigar, I actually happen to have one here, left over from a box that I grabbed, and have just really really enjoyed it this year. So was now this is the Redux, so this is not the original. This is the Tatuaje Monster Series. This is the Face Redux. Um, and I just, man, gosh, it is such a flavor bomb of a cigar. Massive, a lot bigger than any of the other cigars we've mentioned so far.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the Face Redux. It's probably been my favorite Redux so far. The only one that I don't have any comparison
Well, I
to
was going to
is the
ask you to
Frank.
rank it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been my
Right.
favorite Redux
Exactly.
so far.
Because that's
Yeah, the only one that I can't compare to at least a memory, right, was the Frank. So I never actually smoked the original Frank. I smoked the Redux,
well,
which I thought was wonderful. And I would say the face is so far Redux has been the best. The Frank was shortly after. It would be ranked after that. And then some of the others, and I'd have to think about it. But the face was absolutely fantastic. If you have any left or need to find any, um, Pete, George. I know you got Pete on speed dial, so you could probably get yourself a couple, which would be nice. So,
yeah, let me ask you a question because I was thinking about this the moment that you said I like that you did this, but I was you also liked expressions of the face in the Skinny Monster and the Smash, right?
yeah,
You are
absolutely.
you are actually partial to the face, the blend.
Yeah, hmm I would
It,
absolutely
it
say
was
so.
it
Yeah,
was it was like you were singing with that choir right away.
Yeah, I would think so. The only one, and we haven't had a redux of it yet, but the only blend that I probably enjoy more than the face is probably the Jason, the Voorhees. Um, and the Michael I thought was really unique and sensational, like right off the jump, which was really
Yeah.
for me was an unusual experience for monsters. Usually I have to buy them and let them sit for a while. Um, the Michael I thought was incredible right off the truck, right off the
Right
shelf.
out of the box
Yeah, it was
in
really
October.
yeah, it was great when it was released. So, um,
Cool. All right, one more.
all right, last one. So no surprise here because the original version and its non-limited in its non-limited fashion made the podium a couple years ago. So the Luciano cigars, Maria Lucia, he released a limited edition at the PCA this past year, and I thought it was absolutely sensational. It was unlike its the original blend. It was a different blend. It was a Parejo, so not box pressed like the original.
Mhm.
I thought it was a little bit more medium body. I didn't think it was as in your face and as bold as the Maria Lucia, but I thought it was incredibly well balanced. Really beautiful construction. Really enjoyed it. And I thought Luciano hit another home run with the namesake of one of his. I would say probably honestly the Maria Lucia is probably his best brand. Like I hands down. I'm confident in saying that. I had to think about it for 2 seconds,
But
but
so
pretty confident that.
was it right to label this version of Marie? In other words, was it just taking advantage of past success? Because you already said it's a different blend and
Right.
it lands differently, it smokes differently.
Hmm. Yeah, I thought it was well enough in the family that it wasn't it wasn't playing off of previous success. Like I don't think he wasn't just building on previous success with something. I think he wanted to create something unique but within the same kind of realm, so to speak. So
So he
there were
wasn't
like
borrowing from his own. He
yeah,
wasn't borrowing from his own.
yeah, I think there was
Okay.
enough similarities to make it where it wasn't like obnoxious, like
Okay.
this isn't a Maria Lucia, this like what were you
Right.
thinking? Like
That was my question.
so yeah, good good stuff. So but those are the honorable mentions, the participation trophies as Coop likes to call them and everything. I like to mention them and get them out of the way and everything is before we go into the unveiling. So so with that, let's go into tonight's major point. It is the top 10 cigars of 2025. Tonight's major point is brought to you by Grand Habano Cigars from the fertile lands of Honduras. George Rico and his family have put together the very best vintages for you. That's right, you, the cigar smoker. From value-based hits like Corojo Number 5 to the award-winning 20th anniversary to special projects like Zulu Zulu, Grand Habano is about cultivating the best and making pinnacle cigars for the market. Culture, tradition, quality, premium handcrafted Grand Habano cigars. So, um, George, as before we start off with the number 10 cigar on this year's list,
Mhm.
getting your thoughts and everything, I thought it would be best to review the criteria. Um,
Yeah.
made made criteria
Important.
very simple. It's stayed consistent over the years. I know you've always been a fan of the way I've structured this. So
Hmm.
how so this is each cigar that is on this list was first smoked by myself within the last 18 months. So the way I kind of describe this is, yes, this might be new cigars within the last 18 months. It might be a cigar that's been on the market for a number of years and I haven't smoked it until the last
Yeah.
18 months. This also means that a cigar that's been on the market forever that releases a new vitola within the last 18 months. And we're going to get to vitolas in a second. Well, actually, let's go ahead and talk about vitolas now. It is vitola specific.
Yeah. Hmm.
So it is not a blend. We are not naming cigar brands. We're not naming cigar blends. We are naming the cigar and vitola
A
specific.
cigar.
A cigar, one cigar. Um, my favorite of all my pieces of criteria, it can't suck. That should be obvious, but I put it on there anyway. It can't suck.
Yeah.
There's no limited editions allowed, which is why I have my participation trophy section. Uh, no previous number one winners are allowed to repeat. So that means even if last year's winner was the Tatuaje Verico Blue, number one. So if Pete releases another vitola in the blue, it's not eligible for my list at all, which is unfortunate. But hey, the number one cigars have their day in the sun, and they'll always have that number one ranking for their particular year. But previous cigars from
You can
previous
also
years.
swell the ranks. You can also swell the ranks of honorable mentions.
Yes, exactly. Previous and
Right?
yes, absolutely. And previous years, cigars from previous years can appear on additional years, provided it's a different vitola. And again, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's subject to the same criteria. That has not happened yet. Just quick note. But
Mm-hmm.
that is still a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, one cigar per company is the maximum. That's actually going to come
Mm-hmm.
up tonight. George and I were talking about this. Um,
Yeah.
but the big one, this is the big one. This is the big piece of criteria, and it has to do with frequency. So it is the amount of times that I smoke the cigar is the biggest piece of criteria out of all the pieces of criteria on this list. Out of my criteria, this is the big one. I have had to have smoked the cigar the most times over other particular cigars. I've had to have access to it, the opportunity, and actually obviously reached for it often. I've gone through a more than a box over the last 18 months of each cigar in the top 10, some more than others. Interesting of note, um, the number, yeah, the number, I think it was the number five, yes, the number five cigar of the year actually was smoked the fewest, but still met eligibility
Wow.
criteria, but it was smoked
Still met
the
right.
least amount. So, uh, but I found it to be absolutely exquisite, and that's why it ended up ranking so high. But it was still quite a bit, as far as smoking amount. So that's the criteria, guys. That's it. Nice, simple, nice, easy, and everything. So, um, let's
Easy to understand and also consumer friendly.
mhm.
Those characteristics make this a list that is valuable.
Awesome. Well, any other thoughts? Any other thoughts on the criteria that you from? I know we've talked about it every year,
Well,
George, but
I I respect the structure. I love the whole idea. I like the idea that first of all, it should be that there's one company, one entry per company, or I don't. I wanted to ask you this. When you say one company, it could be, to use a specific example, there could be a My Father's cigar in there. There could be a Tatuaje cigar in there, right?
correct. That's correct. Yeah.
So we're not talking about it. It's and in within Tatuaje, if it happened, there could actually be a Cabaguan or a Fausto. It wouldn't have to be. That's what I'm asking you,
Okay. Yeah.
because
So
there are a number of companies that have these beautiful portfolios that are built with relationships, but they have very, very distinct brand identities.
yeah,
In
great
other
question.
words, it isn't. Oh yeah, we took a different wrapper and put it on the cigar and called it by another name. No, they have brand history. They have from the same corporate family.
Yeah.
So I
Great
wanted to
question.
clarify that.
Great question. So yes, so manufacturer can have several cigars on the list. In theory, a manufacturer could have every spot on the top 10, provided they're 10 different brands. To your point about
Right.
Tatuaje and Cabaguan, no, it because it's and same with like La Tillier. And even surrogates, like I include that under, I guess, the umbrella of,
That's
yeah,
all one company. That's why.
yeah,
That's under, even though theoretically Letelier and surrogates and a couple of other things are part of a different portfolio, a different house, so to speak. But that I get it, I understand.
yeah.
But that also means that when you're talking about Foundation and a couple of other companies that have these entries, you have to be a little bit arbitrary. In other words, you
Yeah.
say, okay, this one's going to make it, that one isn't, right? Because I've already got X in this list, Y isn't going to be included.
Right. And so like the probably the hardest ones to narrow down when you think about it because of just the sheer size of the portfolio. When you think of like Altadis USA, General, Drew
Mm-hmm.
Estate, like they have so many different brands that are very like identifiable, as as themselves, right? When you think about
Yeah,
like Monte Cristo or Romeo and Julieta, like those are well-known brands, but they're under the same company. So therefore only one,
right.
if a Romeo and Julieta, excuse me, a Romeo and Julieta and Monte Cristo were battling it out for a spot, for example, only one would make the list.
Mm-hmm.
So,
One is going to make it.
yeah. So,
So, but so now I'm sorry, I'm not. I don't want to dwell on this, but I want you to make clear. If that was the case, you would be actually smoking the cigars to evaluate which one you think belongs that's better to represent in the top 10.
right. And that's
In other
actually going
words,
to,
you would take the time
yeah,
to
and
figure
that's going
that
to come
out.
up.
That's going to come up, right? Of
Yeah, that's
course.
going to come
Good.
up. That's going to come up tonight. So, for sure. So, all right. So let's go ahead and kick things off with our number 10 cigar of the year unveiling.
Yeah.
And this is a this is a new this is a newer brand. And a brand that I'm really excited about and I thought was absolutely fantastic. Let me go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm just pulling up my notes, getting those aligned. Um, but I was really excited. It's been a brand that's been around for a while in the European market, but it's just made its way across the shore and absolutely sensational. But it is the Bentley White Edition Robusto, which is made by the Schuster family, company co-owned by the Schuster family and Jonathan Carney, formerly of La Flor Dominicana.
Yeah.
And this cigar it specifically is manufactured at Hoya de Nicaragua, which you can tell why a Connecticut shade probably did so well, considering Hoya
Mm-hmm.
knows what they're doing when it comes to Connecticut shade. But the Robusto is the number 10 cigar of the year. Um, it really kind of squeaked in there, and it was kind of on the bubble. But I absolutely love the cigar. I really think it
Mm-hmm.
really sings in that vitola. I do like some of the other vitolas as well. I've smoked way more of the Robusto though. Just because as previous years would indicate, I tend to like Robusto. So, it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty indicative of why that vitola made this
Why it's there.
spot exactly. So, um, but George wanted to get your thoughts. I know you sent me some notes, of
Yeah,
course, ahead of time.
I don't have my notes in front of me because I'm actually using the camera and audio link in my phone is better than on my laptop, and I sent you I sent you my notes by text. Do you want me to see if I can find them in another file?
Yeah, let's see, because the ones you sent me oh no, here it is. Yep, no, I've got it was a pretty short and sweet feedback. You called
I
it
tried to make.
go ahead,
Go ahead.
please.
What I was going to say is I tried to make my notes reflective of how I would do. And remember, I smoked all these blind. The only thing I knew was a number.
Right.
I tried to make them reflective of my typical analysis. In other words, I'm more or less siloing qualities, construction and performance, flavors and aroma, body, and then things like finish and finally a little category at the end, which is about uh, overall impression of the cigar, because that is very vital. There are times when a cigar can have problems along the way, and yet it redeems itself, and you find that you can't put it down. So that has a way of waiting and changing. But I tried to give you the pithiest summary of the issues that I found, either what made me happy, or what disappointed me, or what I thought was missing. So again, they're not. You don't have to. you don't have to take a lot of time, but if you look, you'll see my positioning. And the other thing I will say, in my own defense, before we go any further, I don't give up points like Halloween candy.
Yeah.
I'm tight. I don't think there's any I don't think there's any validity in having 100-point score where everything lands between 85 and 100. That's nonsense to me. There are, and I think it's also disrespectful to a lot of manufacturers who make cigars that are aimed at an audience that doesn't need the kind of qualities that get highlighted when somebody's, oh, it's a 92, a 93-point cigar, you got to rush out and buy this. So I'm defending the fact that my scores might seem harsh to you.
I think to a lot of people, including manufacturers. But you describe as, and you know, I've prided myself on some pretty tough scoring too.
Yeah.
Tough, quote unquote, tough scoring in the sense of like anything below 90 for a lot of people means it's trash, and that's not necessarily the
Which is
case.
not true at all.
Yeah. And I smoke a lot of cigars that I would consider, 87, 88, 89 on a frequent basis. And it's something that they're cigars that I enjoy, and they're,
Those cigars are your friends.
yeah, exactly. So,
And I don't mean your relationship with the cigar makers. I mean the cigar is something that you're happy to grab out of your
yeah,
humidor.
absolutely. So on that note, again, your feedback on this particular cigar was a little short and sweet for the most part. Modern Robusto with a blonde wrapper, nice shine, well made and solid feel. Very slight floral in the cold draw, which I also get as well.
Yeah.
Nice smoke to the finish, but and very consistent. You said not a lot of change throughout.
Right.
So
Which is one of the reasons why I dinged it a little bit.
mhm. So you like a little bit more complexity, a little bit more of a ride on
Yeah.
the flavor side.
I'm a horrible cigar snob. I want evolution in my cigars. I want them to entertain me, tell me a story, take me for a ride. I don't mind if flavors come and go. In other words, if I love a note that happens when I'm lighting up a cigar and it goes away at first, that doesn't disappoint me. I just want to see what happens next. And I love the guys that are able to make some of these flavors dance and come back. They pop up and they go, whoa, there it is again, and then it's gone, and then it comes back later. So, and maybe it comes back slightly modified, either more intense or more subtle, whatever. But I want that from a cigar. That's how a cigar rises above. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. There are guys making cigars that don't get respect, that don't get love in the humidor, that people walk by every day, that absolutely hit all those points.
Yeah. Talk real
But
quick.
they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to say I'm going to step away for a second. Talk about your relationship. When I say relationship, like your experience, how you feel about their portfolio overall. I know you don't have a lot of experience with Bentley, nobody does, but like Hoy de Nicaragua cigars, manufactured cigars. What is your relationship in terms of how your palate usually lands with cigars that they manufacture?
Well, so I have a long relationship and a long fondness for Hoya de Nicaragua, but in all of its evolutions. In other words, 50 plus years ago, when I started in the industry, one of the things that happened, sort of as I was getting my footing and learning about the modern cigar landscape in the 70s, was the emergence of Olla de Nicaragua, which turned the world on its ear. Because before that, it was, Honduras was the producer of winners and things that were popular in price point, but that had old school Havana characteristics. The Canary Islands was where the premium cigars were made, and they reflected that. Jamaica was a notch under there. Mexico was a particular flavor that was limited purely because in those days Mexico couldn't export a cigar that wasn't 100% Mexican tobacco. But Olla de Nicaragua was absolutely mind blowing. The cigars. Now they stumbled a little bit as a result of things that happened during the Contra War. You know, the Sandinistas are there, but Olla de Nicaragua found its footing, and it has continued to evolve its personality. So,
Hmm.
you know, the kind you mentioned, Connecticut Shade. Uh, that would never have been on an old cigar from them back in the
Yeah.
day. But man, they blossomed when they found that combination, and they have made really, really beautiful cigars. And by the way, the great thing about them is that they've welcomed a variety of people into the factory to help them to give input and to create. You know, some of the first times that they did this, the word collaboration wasn't really out there, but they had people that were coming in and saying, "Hey, let's do this," and the results were outstanding. They're a sneaky company because Olla de Nicaragua is one of these. They have the power of legacy, but for the typical American cigar shop smoker now, they don't assign them this apex position. They just think, hey, Olla de Nicaragua makes good cigars. And a lot of times, what Olla de Nicaragua makes is first and foremost a consumer friendly price point, right?
Hmm.
And they're not, it's not like you got to go hunting for these things. You know, they're not positioned as being unicorns. And they're not using that to elevate themselves. They're just a company that's extremely straightforward, saying, we've got this tobacco. We have our techniques in terms of fermenting and aging, how we blend, and the things that we like to do. And they just continue to, I can't say surprise me because I expect nothing less, but
Continue to
they do
evolve.
things
Yeah.
that exactly, and they do things that please me that go, wow, I can't believe this. And
Right.
again, I'm not trying to put down where they are in the marketplace right now, but they don't get enough love.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, bravo to John Carney and the Schuster family for partnering with them and producing this particular cigar. I think it was an absolute home run right out the get. It's hard. It's hard when you're starting a
Well,
brand or launching a
John,
brand to be able to do that. And I think it's,
today to be able to land with that kind of statement product is
yeah.
a real achievement because there's
And
a lot of people that
yeah, I was gonna say, well, and on the world's most popular rapper too.
exactly.
Yeah. So, alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and get into number nine. Where are you out on your cigar, George? Just wanted to get an idea.
Well, where I am is that I'm really enjoying it enough. I mean, I don't know whether you can see this, but based on what a glorious, size this was, I'm really sort of in the meat of the middle third,
Hmm.
and it is smoking delightful. This is look, you can see that the burn is a little bit off, but it's a small. We got the mascara line. It's not, and it's a beautiful white ash. It's got just the right amount of resistance, so it's not a wind tunnel. It's burning at a beautiful rate, and the flavor is this creamy. Um, it's bag of walnuts in a suede pouch. But I'm telling you, and I will say this: the aroma is a little it's a little lighter and a little less out there than I would have thought based on both the cold draw of pre-light and the fact that the retro gives you a lot of information about this tobacco without being, spicy. It's not attacking your sinuses and going, ha ha, ha, I bet you're sorry you did that.
Yeah, I agree.
What about you?
Yeah, I'm about in the same spot you were at, so we're smoking at the same pace, which is great. Really, I get a lot of butterscotch out of this particular cigar.
Good note.
the spice kind of sings through for me, offering more balance than kind of like to your point about other blends that have some of this tobacco where it's just a lot more kind of can be in your face a little bit, and it's not that
I
assertive.
think the spiciness is all mostly living on the finish.
Hmm.
In other words, it's not there's nothing upfront about it. It's not one of these pepper bombs that grabs your tongue and says, "Okay, we're dancing now." It's very subtle in that, which allows the softer some of the floral and honey notes which have stayed there. Right. In other words, I there were moments when at the first third of this, I went, "Oh, I better enjoy this now because it's going to disappear. I'm not going to get this." But it has retained that quality.
Yeah.
And by the way, the other thing I'll say that to me defines, like my overall evaluation. I don't want to put this cigar down, right? Listen, we various expressions. Something might light your fire and trip your trigger, and you think it's great, and I might sit here and go, "Yeah, okay, it's a cigar, I like it, it's doing well and everything," but it's not my wheelhouse. Uh, this cigar is really lovely. And by the way, it's a slightly, I don't know whether you can see this, but it's because it's a sort of a soft trunk press. It's a bigger ring gauge than I would pick out if I was just wandering into a row of these boxes and said, "Hey, let me try that instead of this." Again, because I'm an old fucker and I like normal cigars.
Well, this next one has a lot to talk about because there are a lot of firsts, and we have also a huge discussion point talked about because
Mm-hmm.
there was another cigar from this company that was in the running for the top 10, but this one ultimately won out. So,
Wow.
the number 9 cigar of 2025 for Los Fumar takes is none other than the Cohiba Riviera Perfecto.
And by the way, it's a beautiful show. Can you will you take it out of the cellophane and show them the
Sure.
press,
Yeah.
because they should see the complexity of this cigar making.
Yeah, there's a lot to actually note about this. Is this again the nothing crazy about the wrapper. It's a San Andreas wrapper. But ooh, I lost the huh, lost the
You
label.
lost the band.
Yeah, lost the
Yeah,
band
it's all
I
right.
grabbed there. Um,
Show them the cigar. Show them the cigar in all its naked glory. That's the way both we saw it. Yeah,
yeah, and so this is again San Andreas wrap cigar. Um, this is the first ever 60 gauge
yeah.
cigar to ever appear on my top 10 list, which makes Coop extremely happy. Uh, the the gotcha on that is it's box pressed.
Yeah.
It's a perfecto, so it's not really 60 gauge, but
So you're exactly. You're not smoking a typical baseball bat. It doesn't register that way.
but it
And the
is still the
vitola,
first. What's that?
the vitola is gorgeous. The
Yeah,
vitola is gorgeous. It's the shape and everything else. But I will say this: I wanted to love this cigar more than I did.
yeah. I know it didn't hit a lot of the spots for you. We'll get into that here in just a second, but I do want to mention a couple of other things real quick with it. Other than the first 60 gauge to ever appear on the
Yeah,
list. Um, the Cohiba, obviously a product of STG, also owns Forged cigars. Last year, General Cigar had under Forged had a top 3 cigar. They had a podium cigar with the Room 101
mm-hmm.
Johnny
Mm-hmm.
Tobacconaut that was number 3 cigar of the year. But this comes in at number 9, and it was competing up against another classic non excuse me classic counterpart in Macanudo.
Yeah.
So Macanudo, the emissary España, was kind of going head to head with this particular cigar, and a lot of people know that I'm a huge fan of that. So the fact that España doesn't make the top 10 and Cohiba Riviera makes it above it, it came down to a number of
Is
factors.
it is pretty wild.
Yeah.
in my opinion. But by the way, this is a big congrats to Sean too for accomplishing this.
Yeah, it's I mean, other than honestly, other than a couple of the Spectres that I've smoked, um, this is probably my favorite Cohiba product. Not probably, it is
From STG,
from
from
STG,
STG,
from
the
STG.
non-Cuban Cohiba.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
important to make that distinction,
Or as it's known across the world, Silencio. That's the brand it's known as because they can't use Cohiba outside the
right?
United States. So, but yeah, no, Sean and his team and the team in general and everything did an incredible job with this particular cigar. I think it's fantastic. It's
Kudos,
really bold.
absolutely.
Yeah, bold flavor. Um, the
It's a step outside what they've been doing with their approach to Cohiba.
1,000%. And so your thoughts in particular, let's see if I can pull them up here. Let's see. Might have missed it. I don't know if it was included in the ones you gave me here.
I think it was, but you know,
It might be hidden.
yeah. Hold on a second. I'm going to see if I can. I apologize for not being. I should have prepared this uh, better. Get into recent
No,
docs.
and I should have spotted it, George. I apologize. I should have spotted it. Yeah, it doesn't unless it's well, let's
You know what? You're exactly right. If for some reason in this format that I sent you, I don't know whether it just got whether I screwed up or cut off, but I will tell you this. Here's what I can more or less recreate for you my tasting notes. I loved the shape, the construction. My wrapper was not perfect by any means. It was a little on the rough and ready size,
mhm.
but the way it felt in my hand and how I absolutely I was so excited to smoke that cigar. And as you know, as I've already ranted, it's not my preferred. But the way that they did the press and the construction of the figurado, I was like, I know I'm going to love this. However, I can tell you this: the cigar completely broke down by the halfway point. It was not burning right, it wasn't drawing right, and the flavors had deteriorated from what it started with. So
Mhm.
this is, you know, I was all in and ready to write a rave, and it sank. And again, I want to emphasize, I wanted to love it, and I was enjoying how it started, both in terms of the cold draw, and the immediate light, and the things that started to develop. But sorry, pal, it completely took a left turn, and I that was the thing that I put in my notes, and maybe I don't know, maybe I self-edited myself because I was really harsh about that. I was like, something is wrong here. The whole cigar collapsed. It was like somebody pulled a stupid peg in Jenga, and the whole thing fell apart. And I was like, I was so disappointed that I want to say that I gave it an 83.5, an 82, or an 83 and a half, based on the fact that it had the beauty and how it started, and then it
Just fell
just
off so bad.
tumbled. And I kept dinging it. I kept saying, listen, I gotta tell the story of what my experience was. And I maybe I just said, "Ooh, I can't send this slam," because, by the way, I thought, well, there's a reason why this is in there. There's a reason why I'm excited to cut it and light it and get going, and there's a reason why you have it included. So I missed that part of the experience.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that this and another cigar, I'm going to be sending out another one to you too, because I will say this, like the last experience that I had with it too, the most recent experience that I had with it too was I wouldn't characterize it as sharp of a drop off as you had. But it was definitely a different experience than I've enjoyed with it. So the last few that I've smoked, and it might just be one of those things where it's the box, it's a man-made
Yeah.
product, and
Listen, it's entirely possible, and we all need to be, uh, forgiving. Look, the fact is, there are certain cigars that cost so much money. If something goes wrong with them, you got to.
Mhm.
The whole point was that I said this cigar had extraordinary promise, and I was all in. I was ready to just revel in what was happening with it, and it took me to the edge of the lake and opened the door and shoved me in. I just
Yeah,
sank. It was terrible.
that's unfortunate. I think and especially when you talk about the price point too, like
Yeah.
it's not an inexpensive cigar. It's one of the
Mm-hmm.
more expensive cigars to make my top 10. I think still the
Mm-hmm.
most expensive to date. Um, the rest of the top 10 out of the conversation for the time being was the Winston Churchill Late Hour a few years ago
Yeah.
that made my
Yeah.
list.
Which
So
deserved to be on the list.
mhm,
Deserved to be on the list, and because that cigar earned its plaudits, its flowers, everything else, based on what it was, not on the fact that it had a band and had a price.
mhm,
Right. In other words, it wasn't about the snob factor; it was about the quality of the cigar, and that's what I was looking for to embrace with this. Because obviously, I didn't know. I wasn't sitting there. I wasn't playing. Oh, let's guess what it is. I was dedicating myself to the evaluation process and being as neutral as I could be. But
yeah.
I just have to tell you that it was one of those things where I went, wow, man, I cannot believe the premise versus the letdown. So I will defer to you and your evaluation.
Yeah, this particular brand I really loved. I really actually liked all the vitolas in it, and that's really saying something. I'm usually very snobby when it comes to vitolas. So for a brand for me to kind of clean house, so to speak, and to be enjoyable in
Mm-hmm.
every single one is typically quite shocking for me personally in my personal experience. Um,
Right.
the Lancero, I smoked quite a few of, really enjoyed. That was also in the running. But when it came down to it, I smoked more of this particular size, which again is unique for me. I don't like a lot of Perfectos, Figurados in general. Don't like larger gauge cigars. So there was a lot to tell with this particular one, but I just kept going
Right.
back to it,
Mm-hmm.
over the time and ended up purchasing more of these, smoking more of these. And that's what it came
That's
down
all you
to.
have to say.
Mhm.
That's really all you have to say.
Yeah, it's been
The only thing I
fantastic.
will add is that the cigar that was competing for this spot, so to speak, or for a spot on the list, that Macanudo España, the emissary,
Hmm.
I've not had a bad one.
Yeah,
Now I
yeah,
don't, I haven't smoked them in depth over a long, long period of time, but I have had more than one, and I've not had one that was a letdown like this. I just think I had bad luck of the draw. In
yeah.
other words, I'm not looking to condemn the cigar that your choice in this. I just think I was unfortunate.
Yeah, like I said, there's this one and another one on the list just based on your experience. I'm going to be sending out some more to you just because I just think they're fantastic. I was really surprised by another one, frankly, of your evaluation of. I thought you would have enjoyed it a lot more, but we'll get to that one here in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll
So
get to it.
so let's move on to number
Let's
eight.
move on.
The
Yeah,
number eight cigar of 2025 for LO's Fumar Takes is none other than the Aladino Fuma Noche Super Toro from JRE Tobacco. I gotta
yeah,
reframe my camera here for a second, but while I'm talking about it,
yeah.
Um, this is actually JRE's only second appearance on my top 10 cigar list. They had
Mhm.
the Corojo Reserva, which was all the rage a few years ago,
Mhm.
cracked my top 10, cracked my top five actually. It was a fantastic cigar. But this particular cigar, the Fuma Noche, which translates to night smoke, um,
Nice smoke.
um, and is a beautiful Maduro Honduran forward profile. Really, really fantastic. I love the one thing I really enjoyed about Aladino and JRE in particular over the years is the consistency when it comes to um, their construction. The burn, the draw has always been fantastic. I was really, really pleased with this. This is a 6 1/4 by 54, so another bigger cigar. Really thought
Hmm.
it was fantastic with its bolder profile. It was one of those cigars for me when I first smoked it that really just grabbed my attention from the light. And every time I've gone back to it, has just performed incredibly well.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's caught on like other lines in the portfolio. I think there's other
Hmm.
ones that are a little bit more popular, hopefully with some more time. It's still a relatively young brand in the portfolio that
I just think it's
it's
not getting the same retailer love. I don't. I
yeah,
don't. I don't think it's being put forward in that respect.
yeah.
But I'm an Aladino booster always, all the time, and forever.
What's your
Right. In other words,
what's your favorite in their portfolio? What's like the one you go to the most? Is it the Cameroon? I know how much you love. I know it's Honduran Cameroon. I know it's not. You
yeah. In fact, I kind of soft pedaled my reaction to the Cameroon because there are so many other things that they do that are complex. They have a Maduro box press Lonsdale, which is an insanely. It's such a classic smoke. It's such
ooh
a
yeah.
phenomenal profile. And I just when I see them, like in my travels and going around looking at retailers, I'm like, hey, how's Aladino doing, and what's happening? When they're there, I buy them because it's not Lonsdale is not a shape that everybody's wild for. But I got to tell you, there's an Aladino limited edition that came out this year that I just think is insane. It's so good, it's disgusting.
I
So, you know,
I think it's what's interesting
well,
to me about JRE, and this is I'm almost guilty of it myself too, because and it's interesting because while Julio Aroa obviously is not a by any stretch of the imagination is not a newcomer to the industry or anything. It's almost like, and this I'm ashamed to say this, and who still will probably listen to this later, and I feel bad about this, but it's like I almost kind of take them for granted, and that's really sad. Like that's on me though.
yeah, it
That's
is.
but
But part of it is that unlike other people, even in the same space in the same region, Iroa is not a household name, and it should be. Everybody should be bowing down with respect to this family, their history in the business, what they have done, and the ways that listen. Aladino itself is this perfect reinvention. And Husto, I'm telling you, I am absolutely all in for the things that they're doing. It's phenomenal.
yeah, it's
And they look, they're making cigars that will not be ignored, that cannot be brushed aside, that cannot be discounted because they're not Benjamin cigars.
yeah. Yeah, it's a cigar brand that is extremely, and especially with cigar prices on the rise, like it's a brand that is extremely affordable, very
Yeah.
approachable, very consistent. And Fuma Noche is just, I mean, for me, it's been the cigar that's really popped since like the Corojo Reserve. Like that cigar to me was like leaps and bounds the very best. And I really like the Maduro that you mentioned earlier as well. I love the Cameroon.
Yeah, I love that cigar. Yeah.
The 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 Connecticut I need to revisit more. I smoke it every now and then,
Hmm.
but it's probably my least favorite out of all of the major ones. The original Corojo, of course, is elite. So in its own right,
The Corojo makes it hard. The Corojo makes it hard to pick up a Connecticut and not go, oh, I'm missing something, because if they
right?
just had Corojo wrapper on this, it would elevate it. So you're maybe arbitrarily in your mind knocking it down a peg, but their blending and the way that they're made and the flavor that they deliver deserves the attention of every consumer. I don't care who you are. I don't care how snobby you are. I don't care how experienced or inexperienced you are. If you don't know Aladino, educate yourself tomorrow.
Yes, for sure. So, this was these were the notes that you sent me. This was one of your more extensive notes. So you had a lot
Yes,
to
I
say
couldn't
about this one.
stop.
Go ahead.
Yes. Well, you can read because you got it, but I will tell you this: I could not say enough about this cigar, and it was teasing me a lot. Which again, I remember I said I like to be engaged. I like these things to happen. So there are a couple things that I think this might have been it's the second or the third highest of the whole top 10 of my ratings, at least of what I smoked. In other
Yeah,
words, 4 through 10. I thoroughly enjoyed this cigar. I noted a couple things, but go ahead. You
here
should have my notes in front of you.
yeah, here we go. So we got Toro Grande. Hold on. Toro Grande with a toothy Maduro, likely San Andreas wrapper, very good, as opposed to broadleaf.
Mm-hmm.
Solid feel, nice finish, but quite subtle floral quality to the cold draw. Cinnamon and other baking spices abound. Nevertheless, post light, the flavors are only faintly peppery with a meaty, irony quality. Um, Nutty top notes appear near the middle, but there are soft edges despite the richness and thick body. I'm not wild about the overall profile, but I respect the blend and balance of flavors here. One side note, the aroma isn't very pronounced or distinctive, but I still really enjoyed this right at the 87 to
Yeah.
88 point value. So, when you gave me a range, you said that ranges reflect a kind of a half point, so like 87 and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Precisely. And they again, like I said, I don't toss them around. And if a cigar gets a half point, it's because it was notable. There was something about it. In other words, whatever I might have been dinging them for was very, very minor. I think that cigar it's a gem. And by the way, I kind of knew what I was smoking, and I what I said to myself was, I got to go buy some of these. I got to go buy some of these because I want to see what the range of the. In other words, I want to know if sometimes they actually give that little bit more that I was looking for.
So there's a good indicator right there. So we're talking about, again, an 87, 87 and a half, which a lot of people would consider,
Yeah,
oh, George didn't like this cigar, right? He said right there, hey, I'm going to purchase more of these because I want to explore
I'm going out to buy it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So before we go into the next quarter of cigar of the list here, we're going to
Of the
go ahead and
list.
break it up into with one of our segments, of course, which is of course, United Cigars presidential trivia segment. Ready to live the United lifestyle? Launch your palate voyage with United Cigars. You can celebrate over 250 years of excellence with Red Anchor, or experience elegance with La Giana Havana. Rekindle the spirit of 1776 and light up the skies with a firecracker. Then celebrate honor, pride, and accomplishment with a gold star. Jet set the globe and capture luxury with Atabey, Byron, Alfonso, or Bandolero. Don't just smoke, smoke United. United Cigars since 1901. United we smoke. So, I was actually doing some research for the last show that we had. We had George Rico and Pete Johnson, my last two number one
Yeah,
cigar producers on,
cool.
and it ended up being a little bit more of an abbreviated show just because of a couple of circumstances and stuff. So we kind of weren't able to tackle some normal segments. So this is actually a throw
It's a
a roll of, yeah,
carryover.
it's a carryover. But I found it kind of interesting. So it's two questions, of course. First one's multiple choice. Second one's kind of fill the blank. So
Mhm.
everyone knows that Andrew Johnson, um, and Abraham Lincoln's vice president who became president, was actually the first president to ever be impeached. So, but how many votes separated him from actual removal from office? There's a difference between being impeached and removed from office, right?
And
There was a
removed.
number of votes. How many votes were separated him from removal from office? Was it A, 3 votes, B, 6 votes, C, 2 votes, or D, 1 vote?
Mm, well, I didn't get to vote then. I was too young to vote at that time. But I want to say it's 2 votes.
Close. The margin was very narrow. It was insanely narrow. Think about how little two is. The correct answer is actually one.
One.
Only one, only one vote in the Senate was separated from, separate him from being removed from office, which is just insane. So one
Yeah.
person saved his hide from being removed from office. So there was not a lot of love on either side of the political line for Andrew Johnson.
But you
So
can guarantee there were plenty of smoke-filled rooms with horse trading going on
oh, I'm sure
around that vote.
I'm watching this it's not a documentary, but it feels kind of like it. It's a film on Netflix that actually tells the story of James Garfield. It's called
Yeah.
Death by Lightning or
Struck by
something.
lightning.
Struck by Lightning. There we go.
Struck by lightning.
Really, really fantastic performances all around by some really interesting key political uh players.
Michael Shannon is great in it.
Yeah,
It's got a great cast, but it's really really well done. The problem is, even though it's on a popular streaming address, um, right now America is allergic to education or information, and so something that is actually it's not a footnote to history, it's an extremely important moment and everybody should know about it, and
yeah,
this is an effort to tell a neglected story. Guaranteed nobody told you about this in your high school history
yeah.
class.
No, it's funny. The reason I originally read so much about James Garfield before I really got into presidential history, I was always kind of a little history hound, from my early days of elementary school up
Yeah.
until now. But honest to goodness, the reason why I was so attracted to learning more about him was his last name, Garfield. And
Garfield.
why Garfield the cat? Because I really liked the cartoon. So like that was my literally that was the I was like, oh, I want to learn more about this guy. And that's the only reason I started originally reading about it. Learned that he was the, second president to ever be assassinated. Spoiler alert, he gets assassinated, everybody, but you should know your history. So
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but um
And Gateau,
incredible
the
story.
character is great. But by the way, let's
Mhm.
let's talk about one other. I don't want to jump on your second fill in the blank trivia quiz, but regarding Struck by Lightning and the cast of characters that are in there, you saw Chester A. Arthur being displayed in his story is like a
Yeah,
little adjunct, right? You know what
yeah.
Chester A. Arthur's claim to fame is for us.
Yeah, he's the only president to supposedly not be born in America.
But what makes, for cigar guys, what makes Chester A. Arthur worth knowing in your little knowledge bucket?
Oh, because he was a renowned cigar smoker. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but he's the guy that said the famous quote, sitting as president pro tem, a long speech about what this country needs.
Needs
And he turned aside and said, what this country needs is a good 5-cent cigar.
5 cent
That is a
cigar.
Chester A. Arthur
That is a
quote.
Chester Arthur quote. That is correct. Yep. Oh, I think yeah,
Anyway,
and
so go ahead.
he's played incredibly well by Nick Offerman. Great, great,
Yeah,
great
it's
acting.
fantastic.
So, Struck by Lightning, take a look at it. It's really, really,
Yeah.
really good on Netflix. So yeah,
Do
the
yourself
film.
a favor.
Yeah, seriously, do yourself a favor. So the fill in the blank is it was the vote to remove Andrew Johnson was by one vote. Um, what state did the representative hail from?
You mean for the allegedly the vote that saved him from removal in office?
Correct. What state?
Wow, that's a really good question. Now, if I think about the people who are involved,
Well, here's the hint.
um,
Here's the hint, George. Let's not overthink it. Here's the hint. The reason why this is a carryover from last week's episode. Pete Johnson was the guest of the show. So,
well, it couldn't have been California,
correct.
Florida.
Maine, where
Oh,
Pete Johnson was
of course,
born.
I should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's right. Because Florida, but that, yeah, that exactly Pete's birth nation. That's great. So,
Yeah.
did Pete know that?
No, I didn't get a chance to ask him. Like I said, we were short on time and
Oh,
stuff. That's why I brought it over from last week for you. But yeah.
okay. So
Uh
we'll put that. Maine's having a little moment right now, though. You know,
yeah,
people are paying attention to forgotten corner of the country.
for sure. Well, that's also my dad's home state as well too. So I've always bonded with Pete on that. And that was always something that my dad loved to share was that his state was the um you know
Was the
was the
was
unfortunate
what saved him.
was unfortunately what saved him, as my dad used to put it.
Exactly. That's it. Exactly
So
right.
my
I
dad was
love
a
it. That's
my
great.
my dad was a fan of Lincoln, but like many in this country at the time, and his history has judged him too, he was not a fan of Andrew Johnson. So,
Well, yeah, Old Hickory. There's plenty of people have a lot to say, but you know, it's hard for us to evaluate the man from this distance.
yeah,
Or let's say it is easy to condemn him in the light of our present day and how we know. I think he was a remarkable man, but you know, I certainly don't apologize for his sins. There are plenty of things, but like I said, it's we should be more forgiving.
yeah. Well, like I've always said about our nation's presidents, it's I've said this 1,000 times now on the show because we've carried over this segment for so many years, but it's
Mm-hmm.
they're the under 50 people in the history of the world have held the office.
Yeah,
They're all fucking insane. They were all crazy.
yeah,
Um, and some of the most virtuous had some of the blackest sins, and some of the most hated ones had very virtuous sides to them that nobody got
exactly.
to see,
It, it, it
and
takes
everything in
a
between.
it takes a complex character to want to assume the mantle of the
Yeah,
presidency, and the run up to actually earning that office is filled with more deal making and horse trading and chip gathering than you know. If America knew what it took, especially in the modern times, if you think the last 100 years, if America had any idea what it takes to get to be in a position where you can actually make a run for the presidency, they would never vote for those people. They would be like, "Are you kidding? That guy? Don't let him
yeah.
anywhere near the building." Now, unfortunately, we've made that mistake twice. But anyway, forget that. Let's keep let's. But by the way, I was going to suggest something. Not that I'm not still enjoying this, but is it time for you and I light up cigar number two?
Yes, let's slide up cigar number two. So me
And in my case, cigar number two is going to be cigar number two from your list. I don't know whether
correct.
you have lined up something else.
Well, I'm gonna light up a cigar that's very similar in size before we light up
Okay.
our number one cigar. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
and that I'm gonna be lighting up the very first number one cigar of the year from 2017 of LL's Fumar
17.
Takes. This is the Espinosa Habano number four. Um,
Yeah.
I still smoke this. If not on a weekly basis, I would say on a bi-weekly basis. I really enjoy it. Have um I have a number of the boxes put away, empty boxes put away that I'm going to be making a lamp at
Hmm.
some point. I've always said that I was going to do that
Cool.
for a project. Have yet to do it, but I will at some point.
But you're
But I
right. It is. We're looking at similar vitolas and even a wrapper that has some similar properties. But
but fair to say that you enjoyed number three considerably.
absolutely. I mean, we can talk about it when we get down there. But let's just say that I would happily pick that cigar, finish it. I might not get to burning my fingernails, but the flavors were there. I would say that where I am in the final third didn't open up and deliver me everything that I was hoping it would. But again, I have to tell you, it's in the low 50s here where I'm smoking, out on my balcony, and it's in the 20s outside. So this is as comfortable as I can make it. And I have to tell you that smoking cigars in the cold, uh, not that the cigar is an ice stick, but when you're smoking in a colder, low humidity environment, you run the risk of missing as much as 10 to 15% of what that cigar has to give. So let's be clear that that cigar was outperforming.
All right. And I'm lighting this cigar with my SD DuPont signature lighter. The beautiful
There you go.
the Biggie.
It's
Uh
lovely.
love this lighter. Love the flat flame. The trademarked
Yeah. If you're
5.3
going to use
system
a
pistol.
torch, well, and that's one more evolution from SD DuPont. The people that gave you the twin flame in a soft flame, which is still the best tool for lighting a cigar. But you and I are often in circumstances where we might be in a little bit of a hurry to light up. So a torch is a useful. Because of where I am, I used a match, but that flat flame is absolutely magnificent, and it's a great. It makes it a better tool. Literally makes So kudos to DuPont.
So number seven cigar of the year for
Yeah.
Los Fumar Takes. This is the fourth consecutive year that this company has made the list. Unfortunately, this is the lowest that it's appeared on the list in the last 4 years. But it's still a top 10 cigar for me. And just been smoking a ton of these. Size definitely plays a factor in it, but the flavor to me is outstanding. We'll go over your thoughts here in a second. But
Yeah.
the number seven cigar of the year is the Blackwork Studio Rorschach Sumatra. This is their Petite Robusto. It's a 4.5 by 48. Really nice punchy profile, even with that Sumatra wrapper that has a little bit more subtlety to it typically. This is there are two Rorschachs. This is the newer one of the two blends. This is the Sumatra, and it's been around for a few years, but I actually didn't stumble upon it until just a little over a year ago, actually. And started smoking them and absolutely loved them. Um, there's a lot of strength to it. In my opinion, not a terrible amount of complexity, but it's a shorter cigar, so there's not really much you can do in that size of in that kind of vitola and everything. But it's very memorable, and for me, the aroma is absolutely key to this cigar. I think the aroma is absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's leathery. It's smoky, and it has a really nice sweet finish on the aroma, and the finish on the cigar when you're smoking it, to my delight, is really long. And so even though it's a shorter cigar, the finish is very long, so you get to enjoy it even after the you long take a draw. So really
Yeah.
enjoyed this. So unfortunately, for Oveja Negra brands, they don't make the podium this year, but they still make the top 10 for the fourth consecutive year. And it's with in my
which
opinion,
is quite an
fantastic cigar.
accomplishment.
Yeah,
That's quite
absolutely.
an accomplishment.
So, uh,
Uh, I think if you look at my notes, the number seven might be the highest scored.
it was. It absolutely was. Yeah, I was just about to say you absolutely really love this cigar. A
Two
true
one.
true robusto shape with a slick oily
I
wrapper.
yeah.
Yeah,
Keep
slick
going.
oily wrapper,
You
terrific
got it.
construction, perfect draw. Initial flavor is bright and nutty with mild floral notes. So far, I love it. The spiciness really comes on, but there's an unusual oily edge to the finish. This is a rich,
Mhm.
leathery smoke with a long aftertaste. I just said that. And you said that you would rate it a 90 to 91.
Exactly. This cigar was flirting with 91, and I when I was actually making my notes and getting there, I was like, I didn't want to make it a 91, but I was like, it earned it. There was that there's just that little odd note in the finish, but otherwise I would have had this as like 92 and a half or 93. I was this That cigar is everything that you want. It's like I would like a pocket full of those at all times.
Yeah.
It's a that is a so again. What I will tell you is that and this is personality. This is our preferences, things that emerge. Um, of everything that there, in other words, four through 10, that's winner chicken dinner for me. I was like, oh my god, I just love that cigar, and I was thinking to myself, this is number seven. How are there going to be six cigars that are better than this? Because it was perfection in this classic old school size.
Yeah, I really, like I said, for me, the aroma is really the kicker. The frequency for me was really easy to get to just on the sheer number of sides. Like you said, a pocket full was really
Mhm.
easy. Really, um, just a lot of classic flavors. I love the leather notes that I
Yeah.
got out of it. And it kind of took me back as far as like, from an olfactory standpoint, just the aroma it really took me back to a lot of the first lounges that I ever stepped foot in. I've said
Mhm.
this before that each lounge, a cigar lounge, they smell similar from location to location, but each cigar lounge has its very distinct aroma. That's kind
I don't know
of
whether you can hear me. Okay.
yeah. Each lounge has its very distinct aroma because it's
Yeah.
over the years typically, each lounge has its own like identity. The
That's right.
customers that go, the frequency in which they smoke, the types of cigars that they are more popular, and it all kind
Mhm.
of emulsifies into this distinct aroma. Um, and for me, the Rorschach Sumatra really reminded me, the remote aroma really reminded me of some of those early lounges that I stepped foot in when I first started smoking and
Mhm.
first started going to lounges.
So
So
there's a nostalgic quality. There's
yeah,
a nostalgic quality to what it brings up in you, which is, again, I think the shape and the style of the blend. I don't want to call it simple because it isn't. It's not. Most of the time when you use something a comment like simple around a cigar, there's this hidden derogatory quality to that. It can be simple, and I like it, but there's something that's like a offhanded, a backhanded compliment. These cigars are anything but. They are. Let me just tell you, it's a little mini masterpiece of cigar making, and the fact that it triggers fond memories in you of like everybody's always the cigar lounges that they learn in, that they grow in, that they expand their palate and their community. In other words, the people that they make there and how those people impact them. That's very powerful. So the idea that it takes you back to fond memories is means it's a great tool. And again, that's another reason to have a bunch of them in your pocket.
hmm absolutely. So, um, so I know I've got my last few years of giving you some of their cigars, George, hasn't been your it was not your first introduction nor only experience with Oveja Negra brands, Black Label, Black Works, and
But
everything. But
you have turned me into a full blown fan.
oh, that's awesome. Love hearing that. Sounds good. All right. Well, let's get on to the number six
Number
cigar
six.
of 2025. Um, so like another brand that was previously mentioned, there was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
potential of there was a lot of potential for other cigars to place in this list. I
Uh-huh.
and this is actually a cigar that was is part of a series, and
Mm-hmm.
I was a big fan. I'm a big fan of the series in general. The first one actually was placed in my top 10 a few years ago as well. So this is the third cigar in the series, and the cigar that I, of course, am speaking about is our number six cigar of the year, the Trinidad Espiritu number three
Yeah.
Robusto. So the Robusto, it's a true Robusto 5 by 50. And San Andreas wrapper, AJ Fernandez made at his factory, and it's I think it is a great representation of the series. Number two did not make my top 10 list in the years that it was eligible. I enjoy it. I like it. Um, um, Between the number one and number two, I've always preferred the number one. But number three came around and I really latched onto it. Recommended by Coop. He thought I would really enjoy it. He was absolutely spot on. And he really enjoyed it as well. It actually made was actually placed in his top 30 just a few weeks ago. So I know he enjoys it as well.
I
And
this cigar is popping up on a lot of lists.
mhm, yeah, it also made the cigar aficionado list as well too.
Yeah.
Same Vitola, same Vitola as well. Um,
Yes, exactly.
so you let's see. So you had this to say a trunk press with a dark but dry wrapper, very toothy, effortless draw, perfect burn, created a long ash, nice woodsy flavors, but perhaps a little dusty? Question mark. Mild cocoa
Mm-hmm.
and toffee notes, dried flowers on the finish, but too soft and mild given my expectations for such a dark wrapper. What are the
Yeah,
notes that you had
and
for it?
I think, I don't think I gave you points on that because I was arguing with myself. I gave it an 86 and a half because I was let down is the wrong word. I was enjoying the as you can see by my comments. I was like, okay, this is really really good. That cigar deserves attention, but it I don't think it reached its full potential, and it makes me want to smoke the other Vitolas. So that's a good thing, by the way. In other words, if the cigar sparks your curiosity and say, I gotta get my hands around this blend. I gotta understand what's happening. But it just it got close to the finish line and sort of stumbled,
So I was reading some of your
which is
notes about
why,
this. Go ahead.
yeah, that's to me like looking at that the in other words my experience of how that worked it explains why I would rank it. I would actually just go ahead and flip regardless of the other cigars that are in here. I would flip 6 and 7 personally. I would,
Right.
seven delivered everything that I wanted, and six left me just, like, oh, we're so close.
Well, you would probably put seven over number five, which we'll get into as well too here in just a couple minutes. But
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but what for yourself personally, but what I'll say about this particular cigar too, in your notes by comparison, I went back and checked, is the notes were very similar. The impressions that you had about the cigar were very similar to the Rocky Patel Disciple that appeared on my top 10 a couple years back. And you
Yep.
uh where I think that cigar um really captured you and this one fell a little bit short was that point, was the
Yes.
finish. Like that cigar really
Yep.
kind of delivered a lot more on the initial
In spades, as I
expectation.
recall,
Mhm.
I was raving about
Yeah, you
the
really enjoyed it.
experience.
So, but very similar notes, like very, I think your overall impressions
Hmm.
of the smoke, at least initially and everything. I'd love to get your
Hmm.
thoughts as if you gather more vitolas of it, just to see if there's a different vitola that kind of hits the
Oh,
mark
I
for you.
will. We'll talk about that on February. I mean, the end of the month when you and I gather. Was it
Yeah.
25th? Is that what we decided?
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. But
Yeah, we'll get to it.
yes.
I'm saying, yeah, but by then I will have done my homework about this particular, because I'm very curious. And again, that's a, to me that's a victory.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you want, is for something to say, oh, there's more to get here. There's more to explore. There's more to know. So that it's on my consider it on the list. But go
So
ahead.
so just to kind of recap where we're at in the top 10, with our number 10 cigar was the Bentley White Edition, Robusto. The number 9 was the Cohiba Riviera, Perfecto. Number 8 was the Aladino, Fumanoche. And number 7 was the Blackwork Studio Rorschach Sumatra. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the number 6 cigar was the Trinidad Espiritu.
Trinidad
Uh,
Espiritu.
yeah. Number series number 3, Robusto. Now, again, kind of looking at an observation of what we have on the table as far as brands are concerned, there's been a nice mix with
Mm-hmm.
a general cigar, a Altadas USA cigar, um and then and then we have the boutiques in there too, with Bentley, of course, Blackwork Studio, JRE, the brand that we talked about, that we kind of that I've unfortunately take for granted a little bit. Um
Yeah.
and that's kind of place. So it's been a nice variety so far. In terms of like
Well, and,
large to
and, and
small.
let's be clear. AJ qualifies as a, I mean, he did it for Altadis,
Yeah.
but AJ is solidly in the boutique produce. This is a guy that's, he's crafting cigars with individual personality at a scale, and that it's fantastic that he's got this relationship developed with Altadis, but he's still in that, he's in that family of guys that are, that boutique is the best way to characterize.
And I've long
Don't
said
you
this.
think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've long said this about AJ. I think it's kind of one of the funny asides, or in terms of my opinion, but I know a number of people that share that opinion, that the cigars that AJ produces for other people, for me, are vastly superior to the cigars that he produces for himself under his
For
own
his own
name.
name.
Uh,
Exactly right.
which I can, is either, it's ironic, but it's also, you could also characterize it as virtuous and giving, which are certainly great qualities for him. Um,
I think it
but
also reflects other people's input,
I think so
right? In
too.
other words, the
Yeah,
demand, the creative brief, and in other words, he's not withholding. I'm not. This is not neither a criticism or a defense. Um, I think he's responding to what these people need from him, which is a blast of originality and creativity, and a dedication to producing a cigar that has a personality that can't be ignored,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. And I
So,
think one of the things that, particularly with the tragedy that occurred earlier this year with the horrific fire at one of his factories, the reverence in which, his colleagues spoke about him, when they were talking about it, particularly at PCA, because it had just been a few weeks since the initial fire. But he was
right.
up and running, producing, at full. He was at 100% within just a few short days, which was incredible. Back up and running, and making cigars and everything. But the reverence his colleagues had for him, the words, the kindness, the respect
The
and
support that
support.
he got, the
Yeah,
offers that, whatever he needed. So that speaks volumes to the man.
yeah, absolutely. So, So that
All
was
right.
the
So,
number 6 cigar of the year. So let's go to number
right.
5. This was the one that I was really anxious to get your opinion on this one. I really wanted to see what you thought, and we'll get to your thoughts here in a second. But I was surprised. I was surprised at your evaluation of it. But I was anxious and excited to hear from it. So the number 5 cigar of 2025. This is the second appearance for this company in my top 10 list. It had a number 1 cigar of the year just a couple of years ago. And that, of
Yeah.
course, is Gran Habano, the Corojo number 7 Toro.
Hmm.
Comes in at number 5. It's a Nicaraguan Puro, and beautiful, beautiful Corojo wrapper, Nicaraguan Corojo. And again, the just excellent, in my opinion, just excellent blending by George. I think he has put together
The genius of
obviously
George
beautiful.
Rico.
A winner, man. I think that, this really built upon his success, I think, with the 20th anniversary. I was so enthralled with that blend. Obviously, it was my number 1 cigar of the year 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, I think he built on that with the El Enemigo, and then this particular cigar was a long time project that he worked on. George is very notorious about being very meticulous and a perfectionist in some people's
Hmm.
eyes before he creates cigars and then before he even releases them to market. So
Yeah.
I would say in this, if you guys remember from the top of the show, the interesting note, look how high this cigar placed on my list. This was the cigar that I smoked the least out of all of the top 10 recipients. Um, I absolutely love this
Based
blend. It's
on
fantastic.
why was it the cigar you smoked the least? Was it availability? Was it was there some like reserve there are times when people have extraordinary cigars in their humidor and they like them so much and they go, oh, I only have 10 left. I can't smoke another one right now. I have to wait. I have to preserve these experiences.
Yeah, for
I'm
me,
just
it's
asking why.
yeah.
What is it that arrived at your being able to identify that so clearly?
No, great question. Yeah, for me, it was the availability.
Hmm.
It was the availability of the cigar.
Hmm.
Uh, it, in humidors that I visited, it was carried less frequently, or the availability of sometimes it was
Hmm.
sold out in some of the other
Sold
online,
out.
yeah, companies that I purchased from.
Sold
Um,
out.
and so I mean by that stretch, it was also obviously speaks well of the blend. If it's continuing to
Hmm.
sell out and everything. Uh,
Yeah.
The I will say though, the last bit, it was really quite funny. I was actually at a local brick and mortar here in Fort Worth, Texas, and I just happened to pop in, and unfortunately, a number of them were on the bargain table. Unfortunate in the sense of I can't believe so many people are going to miss out on having this cigar from that particular shop.
Hmm.
But fortunate for me, because I definitely grabbed every
Because you bought
single.
them all.
I bought them all.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I did.
Yeah. Of course.
Absolutely did. So really, really,
Good for you.
fantastic.
Good for you. Bad for that retailer. Good for you.
Yeah, yeah. So spoils of war, man. I took advantage. So I took
Yeah.
advantage and reaped the benefits for sure.
God
So,
bless, man. That's great.
but that is the number 5 cigar of the year for Ellis Fumar Takes of 2025. And congratulations to George for a second appearance in my top
Hmm.
10. And with a truly, truly beautiful blend. And again, a huge shout out because again, it's with the biggest criteria being frequency of smoke and it being smoked the least out of every cigar in the top 10.
But
It it
it's still
yeah,
made it cracked the top five,
yeah, absolutely. So,
and that's big.
mhm. All right. So coming into number 4, and then we'll have a couple of segments, get some initial
There
thoughts
you
from
go.
you on the cigar you're smoking now,
Yeah.
and then we'll go into the final, what we call the podium, where we'll light up the
Yeah.
number 1 cigar of the year. So the number 4 cigar of 2025 um, was a cigar that actually was an older brand that was brought back to light by its owner. and um, was in my mind, was a beautiful representation of just excellent flavors, wonderful blending. Really love the blender and the manufacturer of this particular cigar. So, and I'll get into it here a little bit more in a second, but we'll just go ahead and say it. So, the number four cigar of 2025 was the United Gold Star Robusto. Now, if you remember, the United Gold Star Limited
Gold
Edition,
Star.
yeah,
Yes.
made my honorable mentions last year. It was one of my favorite cigars I had smoked all year long.
Because it was limited, though.
Yeah,
Because it was limited, it was held in honorable mention.
yes, correct. So they tweaked the blend and decided to release a regular production version of it. And while I'll say that this cigar falls just a little short of what the LE was in terms of my personal preference, I still think
Mm-hmm.
this cigar is absolutely sensational. They came also put together a Robusto, which of course I love. So
Yeah.
jumped on this and started smoking them. Thanks to my good friend Oliver Nouveau, who obviously introduced me to it initially, and he was telling me that he was releasing it regular production. I got super excited, and then he told me it was a new blend, and I got a little less excited because I was like, "Oh no!" Uh, I hope it's really good. And when I lit it up, I was not disappointed by any stretch. I absolutely love the cigar. It's manufactured at the William Ventura factory. It is a what we call classify as a Robusto Extra, which I think they do incredibly well in that factory. It's 5 by 52. I love
Yeah.
that vitola. There's something about that vitola specifically that comes out of that factory that just does really well. Former number one cigar. Um, um, Former number one cigar, the La Barba Ricochet Crew Mexi Sol Robusto Extra was
Hmm.
a number one cigar of the year for me, and it was Robusto Extra. So it was a little bit bigger gauge, but still five and a half by 52, 5 by 52, 5.5 by 54. They really live in that particular, for me, they really live in that particular
Bahique sizes.
profile. Really, really enjoy
Yeah,
it.
Bahique
So
sizes. So if you remember that I told you when I got the package from you, I took everything and I put it into my on deck humidor to let it get over travel shock and everything. And I said to you that I would open them up and evaluate and sort of figure out what I wanted to smoke. And when I opened them up and looked at them after they had rested, I looked at that, and that was the first cigar out of the whole collection that I wanted to smoke.
sure was.
And I was absolutely rewarded. I loved, I mean, you can look at my notes, but I'm pretty sure that I gave it an 89. And what I said was I'd like to explore this in a slightly larger Vitola. That's what I remember thinking to myself is that, man, if you put just a little bit more meat on this cigar, another half inch and maybe go to a 54 ring gauge. And again, I'm not the guy that wants bigger cigars, but I said that cigar was a superb experience. So all my love and all the flowers to Ali for doing for making a great decision. It is a beautiful cigar. I was left thinking, man, I would dial. I want this. I want the amps that go to 11 for this cigar.
For sure. You had some, yeah, like you said, you had wonderful things to say about it. A beautiful Robusto with excellent construction, mellow and mild post cut, but pre-light, even draw, cool burn, a very small, slight blister, mildly earthy, some leather and nuts, maybe a 10% increase in power from light to last third. Aroma is very
Mhm.
subtle, and retro is so soft. Um, you characterized it about 89. The last notes were a real tease, so I feel as if a larger Vitola might develop more complex flavors. So,
What I'm telling you is that is to from me that's all high praise. In other
mhm.
words, there's not a negative comment in there. There's only like, oh, I think it could get a little bit more, and maybe I'll have to go back and see if I have any because Ali sent me some of those Gold Star in the the original. the first ELE. I'll see, but I will tell you this: this cigar is, the difference in Michelin stars. It's if you're in the neighborhood, it's worth it, and take your time or go find it. And this cigar deserves people's attention. They should go buy it.
And this was your second highest rated in the 4 through 10. The Blackwork Studio Rorschach at number 7 is your highest so far, was your highest scored, and then this one followed by this one, so at number 4. So a little bit more
Yeah,
appropriately placed
yeah,
on the list if you're thinking about how list structure
yeah.
as far as us
About how
being
they
aligned.
rank.
Yeah.
Right.
So um
No, no, I can see how it earned every bit of its points.
mhm. So I'm really excited that he brought it to regular production. I think it was a great decision.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, like whenever you have limited edition cigars, for a number of reasons, I think it was tobacco that was available and stuff like that. But I thought
Hmm.
what they were able to put together, what to your question about, when we were talking about honorable mentions earlier with the Maria Lucia limited edition.
Hmm.
So this is kind of the reverse, right? So this hits number 4 on my
Yeah.
list in its regular production. But if you're comparing the two, yes, I preferred the LE slightly more than this one, but I really love this blend. I thought they did a service to the brand in
Yeah.
terms of its familiarity with it. It had some similar components, and it very much is kind of in the family, if you want to call it, in of those particular two cigars. And I think it really, for me, it really sings in the Robusto. You'd like to explore it in larger formats, but
Yeah.
yeah, number 4 cigar of the year for me was the United Gold Star Robusto. So just a beautiful, beautiful cigar. So um,
Bravo United, Bravo Ali, and the factory. That William Ventura, they deserve all. They earned this spot.
for sure. Um, So, we're going to go into our next fun segment, break it up, and then we're going to get
Yeah.
some initial thoughts for you on the number 2 cigar of the year. And then we'll light up the number 1 cigar of the year as we go through what we call the podium, which is the
Right.
final 3 cigars. So, the next segment is brought to you by Artista Cigars, which is truly the last hidden gem of the Dominican Republic. With nearly 70 years of rolling cigars, the family behind Artista believes in honoring their long held traditions of handmade artistry. Artista's blends include factory exclusive tobaccos and front marks for every budget. In fact, Artista Cigars has one of the most varied portfolios on the market today. There's something for everyone at Artista Cigars. Now, if you're like me and you can never decide what to smoke, Artista is really a breath of fresh air because I can take something from almost any box Artista has to offer, and I know I'm getting something truly special. So I wanted to look at like historically versus now.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna use the time frames of today, like modern time, 2020
Hmm.
2024 and 2025, and 20 years ago. So 2004, 2005 for you, George. So
Hmm.
what is your preference today, which is what was your preference 20 years ago? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. So let's start with wrappers.
Hmm.
So we'll go with Connecticut shade. I'll lump in Ecuadorian, what we call Ecuadorian Connecticut shade, and
Yeah.
American Connecticut shade, or Maduro. So basically light versus dark, right? 20 years ago, what was your preference? What's your preference today, generally speaking? Excuse me.
Well, so if I think about what was happening 20 years ago, uh, there were people exploring how to get real Maduro production. In other words, techniques, choice of the varietal that they were working with, and it was a little burst of creativity, let's say. Whereas if I think about Connecticut Shade, And so remember this: when I'm talking about Maduro, I'm not only talking about Connecticut broadleaf. I'm talking about all these other wrappers that were developed, and there were people in interesting places trying to rekindle their own understanding of Maduro and the fermentation techniques required to get there. But Connecticut Shade, I will say this: if memory serves me correctly, USA Connecticut had sort of faltered a little bit, both in terms of a diminished crop yield, which always means that the overall when you have a bountiful crop, you get extraordinary results in this elite, and that's always been true. That's true for Corojo. It's true for everything that was grown on Robina's farm, and in other places around the world. And Connecticut, Ecuador was just starting to assert their ownership, really, of the Connecticut shade, quote unquote, because we know that Ecuador is not grown under cheesecloth. It's because of the environment, the shade equivalent. So I don't think that they were 20 years ago. I would say that at that moment, more interesting things were happening with Maduro than with Connecticut.
Gotcha.
Did that answer your question?
What would you smoke today versus 20 years ago? Like, what would you reach for faster?
Oh, absolutely. A blonde, a Connecticut shade. I think there's an over reliance on Maduro leaf to provide punch and body that's almost a little arbitrary. I don't want to call it a gimmick, but it's a crutch maybe in terms of blending. And in right now, this is, by the way, purely personal. It's not a knock on what anybody is doing. Uh, I am interested in cigars with balance and finesse, some delicate notes to begin, and a steady, march up the steps in terms of the intensity of the smoke as you proceed. And I think you can do that with a shade or a sun grown that's that seed type more than you can with Maduro.
Sure. All right, let's talk about Parejo versus box pressed. And then box pressed, you can lump in everything. Soft pressed, square pressed, trunk
Trunk
pressed,
press.
everything. So 20 years
It's
ago
interesting.
versus today.
Yesterday, I had a conversation as part of a blind tasting that I was leading. And one of the people that was there said, "Well, first of all, I hate box press cigars. I don't smoke them." And he goes, "Okay, okay," because I went into this tirade, which wasn't what I was doing. Was explaining, how box press is different in terms of technique, construction, and the logic behind it, and what some people do. And I said, you're doing yourself a disservice if you just automatically say, I don't smoke box press cigars, and you don't choose them. In other words, if there's a selection of cigars that are there and you automatically overlook the box press, you are literally exercising a great group of cigars that you could be enjoying. Having said that, and with the greatest of respect to a number of my friends who make some magnificent box press cigars, to me, there is something about sliding back the lid of a cabinet of round cigars, uncellophaned with a little ribbon around them. It's probably my bias from some of my experiences in my 50 plus years of being a dinosaur. Uh, uh, I think there is a quality to Parejo smokes, the round cabinet cigars that it mostly, I think, again, if they're properly done. In other words, if it's a naked cigar in a cabinet with just that beautiful little cedar sheet over the top, when you open that box and take one out, smell it, and get ready to cut it and experience the cold draw, you're going to get the impact of cedar and the magic that happens between cedar and tobacco. Um, in spades. You're going to get it at a level that isn't normally possible. Now, go back to 20 years ago. I would tell you that at that time, box press cigars were probably some of the most desirable, and the things that, from a variety of manufacturers, not just from, one company, one family famous for making box press and trunk press, beautiful, beautiful smokes. Um, but it became something that everybody wanted to be good at. So 20 plus years ago, box press cigars, extraordinary choices abounded, and there were fewer naked, uncellophaned cabinet presentations made, which is a function of the rise of retailers and their desire to have inventory that they could display and keep protected.
Absolutely. So, going into the next one here, let's talk about the um oh god, I had it. I have several here. I just wanted to just I was cherry picking. Um this is something that's changed quite a bit in the last 20 years. But you're
Mhm.
boutique or big brand.
In some ways, that depends on how you parse the definition. But I will tell you this, in my opinion, what we think of as the legacy brands and the great operators, the custodians of these cigars that taught us all what there was to love about great cigars, they have slipped a long, long way. I think they're being outpointed today steadily by boutique operators. Now, again, as I said, this is about definition. 20 years ago, nobody would have argued with you when you said Davidoff was a boutique brand. And going back a little bit before that, Fuente was a boutique brand, right?
Hmm.
So they were building their own legacy and their own, asserting their position in the ranks. In other words, they were becoming more and more important on a retailer's shelf at the same time that, sorry to name names, but Macanudo and Monte Cristo and Romeo and all these other things are slipping down the ladder in terms of desirability, in terms of setting the pace. The way I define it is this: legacy brands have stepped into a space where they're sort of custodial. They're protecting what they have and what they built and their place in the cigar pantheon. And as such, they're not leaders anymore. They're essentially making brands. They're following what the great innovators and the real, you know, Ernesto, Carlito, even Jorge is he's doing remarkable things. They're not resting on their laurels. They're not sitting back and going, "We can't color outside the lines." They are looking at new tobaccos. They're looking at different vitolas. They're expanding their blend book. They're remarkable accomplishments. And all of the people that you would put squarely in the legacy category are not engaged in activity like that for the most part. You can't be universal about this, but
All right. And the last question, in the last 20 years, do you prefer what is your preference shifted from? Would you rather smoke blind or full disclosure, since it bears on today's
oh,
conversation?
always blind. If you want to do yourself a favor and really know your own tastes as much as possible, Smoke your initial experience with a product blind. Then you will be giving a 100% unshaded response.
If you happen to spend time in a cigar lounge and you have a trusted retailer that you uh, that you shop at on a consistent basis and you smoke around the humidor, do what I used to do when I worked in retail. It was so much fun. We had a game that we would play all the time where one of us would go into the humidor, grab a cigar, remove the label, and hand it to our, a colleague and have them smoke it. And
Yeah,
became a game, a guessing game. It also became a really great way to, especially initially for me, it became a way of really pushing away a lot of bias that I had.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. You were shedding baggage in terms of your judgment.
and one of the greatest experiments that I had that my general manager at the time really put up me was he had me smoke two cigars, um, and he's asked me they're very similar in profile. He asked me which one I liked more, and if you had asked me prior to the experiment, I would have told you the other cigar. And so he handed me blind to accept. I had smoked a Macanudo Portofino
Mhm.
and an Ashton White Label, very similar vitola of the ones. And if you had asked me going into that experiment, I would have told you I would have liked the Ashton White Label more.
Right. And
Um,
instead,
Instead, I said I enjoyed the Macanudo Portofino. Um,
yeah,
and and it and it, that really kind of opened up my eyes a lot to how there is just so much brand bias and even in today's experiment, for you, George, you smoked all these cigars blind. And but for me, I mean, I'll say it, there's bias in my list. There always is,
yeah,
and
of course there is.
there always will be, because I'm
Yeah.
not having that. But if you have the
You're not having
opportunity,
my experience.
yeah, if you have the opportunity to, like I said, if you frequent an establishment and you trust the retailer, is have them go in there and pick a cigar for you and enjoy the experience that we're doing today.
I'll tell you two quick stories about that.
Go ahead.
One is that not that long ago, probably maybe a year ago, I started a little practice with a bunch of at a store lounge, and I had this collection of guys that are what I call cigar gangsters. They're confident of their taste buds. They stay informed. They pay attention to what they're smoking. There's a lot of intentionality in their choices, and they were exposed to a humidor that was extremely well curated, and so um, they considered themselves connoisseurs in of the highest order. So we would set up a regular day of the week where I would lead these guys in a blind tasting. And the problem is that most of the time that you do that in an environment like that, what happens is people want to play. They think winning is guessing what it is instead of actually rewarding themselves by smoking a cigar and going, "Wow, I don't know this," or what's going on here. It's funny that where we are right now, what you just revealed and everything, one of the successes that blew everybody away, that they absolutely were flabbergasted by, was I took a Grand Habano, one of George's cigars, and slipped it into this little tasting session, and nobody even came close to identifying both who made it, what it was, where it came from, everything else. They had no idea. They were all wrong in their guesses in terms of the blend components and things like that. And then when I told them what it was and how they could buy it, they were like, "You got to be kidding me!" They were
Right.
just floored. Right now, I will go back 50, not quite 50 years, but in the days when I was running Georgetown Tobacco and the main store in Georgetown, I used to tell them, remember, this is a simpler era in the cigar world, but I would tell my staff every Saturday, I would say, okay, listen, you can go in the humidor, you can go in either one of our walk-ins or the vault. It was a converted bank building that had a vault. And I said, and pick out any cigar you want. Take the wrapper off. Take the cellophane off if it had it. Take the band off, and you can even, if you want, cut it if you think that it has a top that is too distinctive, or alter the length of the cigar and bring it to me, and I'll tell you what it is. And if I'm wrong, I buy everybody in the staff lunch for the day. I never had to buy lunch.
That's awesome.
I never had to buy. I mean, they could bring me a cigar, and I didn't even have to light it or put it in my mouth or anything like that. I said, "Oh, this is what this is," and they'd be like, "How the fuck can you do that?" Well, if you know, but in those days, having 200 or 300 cigars on display made you at the cutting edge of cigars today, man. If a retailer only has 200 boxes of cigars on display, people are like, "What the fuck, man?" Where's this and where's that? In other words, a retailer can, you got retailers that have 2,000 vitolas on display.
Yeah. I'm putting you on the spot here, George, but with the 4 through 10 that you smoked and that we've
Mm-hmm.
unveiled so far, did you
Mm-hmm.
have did you have any of them pegged for like who actually manufactured it?
Well, I didn't know that the United cigar was the Gold Star, but I had a feeling it came from Ventura. And I also, because of you, had a pretty good idea that that was a Blackworks, that was an Oveja Negra cigar, and I was like, I knew the personality. Um, and then, by the way, I didn't even think when I was looking at the number nine, the Cohiba. I wasn't at that stage even thinking about trying to suss out who it was, but I had a feeling that by the end, when I was disappointed by what happened, I was like, I kind of know what this was. But not, I mean, again, I don't like the idea that doing a blind tasting is about trying to make people guess who made it or where it came from,
Right.
because that gets in the way of a pure evaluation.
Hmm.
In other words, the purpose to a blind tasting is for you to exercise your taste buds, appreciate what's in front of you, and discern the qualities that it has that make you happy or sad. In other words, I don't like this, it's not for me, I didn't get a chance to appreciate what it really is because it didn't perform the way it should. All those things come into play. But the key is to understand that it is not about trying to figure out what it is, it's trying to figure out why it is. How did this blend come together? What was the maker trying to do? Where does this cigar fit into my personal preferences about when and how I smoke?
Awesome. All right, well, let's get some we'll go into a little bit more detail, but I wanted to get your initial thoughts on number two as you're making your way through it. And then we'll light up the number one cigar of the year as we go through the podium.
I'm really enjoying this cigar. This is a beautiful little smoke. First of all, obviously, it's a ring gauge and a size that I'm very happy to engage in, and I like the way it's not. Of all, like, this is not really like a blindingly white, high magnesium white ash. And there's a little flaw in the wrapper, which is I'm trying to nurse around so it doesn't affect, but it's sort of trying to explode. But I'm not holding that against this cigar. This is a lovely smoke. It has balance. It has a lot of the kinds of flavors that I like. In other words, there's a little bit of floral, there's a little bit of barnyard, there's a little bit of earthiness, but not so much that it dirties your mouth. The finish is lovely, and the retrohale on this cigar is very gentle. The retrohale in this cigar tells you much more about the quality of the tobacco that's in it. This is just a great cigar. Obviously, it earned that spot.
We'll talk a little bit more about it when we get to it here. So let's go ahead and get into the podium. But before we do, So I'm going to ask you to set that one down as much as you're enjoying it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And we're going to light
Yeah.
up the number one cigar of the year. So
All right.
I'm taking mine out of the cellophane and um, and I'm going to be pulling off the
Well, but
labels
don't,
here.
you're not going to show us what it is yet because we're going to do the podium reveal,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So I'm taking it out of the cellophane. I'm removing the labels.
Good.
Um, and
This is an evil looking cigar. I mean, you look at this thing and go, whoa, man, what the hell is going on here? This is a badass stick. In particular, I love this pigtail at the top, right? This is the kind of thing that I would take and sit by the edge of the ashtray so I could admire it while I'm smoking the cigar.
have you ever, with the pigtail cap, have you ever pulled those off, like by the pigtail?
Sure. Yeah, of course. I mean, the reason pigtails were made in the first place is so that you didn't need a cutter. You just took it and twist. You kept twisting in the direction. You can't do it the opposite, but you twist in the direction that the pigtail was laid, and it should pull away just enough tobacco.
Go.
And listen, you know, I used to say it's okay to bite a cigar as long as you're riding a horse. A pigtail makes this the simplest thing in the world. You've got the cigar, you just twist that, and then you get yourself one match, and you're in business. What could be wrong with that?
Gotta love it. All right.
But this cigar has a great hand feel. It's solid, it's dark, it's oily and shiny. I mean, this is like in the movies when you got a badass guy that's clearly they're telegraphing things about his character from the cigar that he pulls out. This is the idea of like you know. But just as I suspected, the cold taste is very muted. But the second that you light this, it delivers these crazy floral, powdery, these delicate aromas. You're looking at this thing going, oh my God, it's a dog rocket. This is going to be like I got to smoke this outdoors while I'm fighting off gnats but instead it's like, whoa.
The color of the ash is something I wanted you to pay attention to too. I thought it was interesting, considering the how dark the wrapper is and
Mm-hmm.
as you
How
smoke it
oily
down.
it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to continue to enjoy the number one cigar of the year, blind,
Yeah.
or you are blind while we go through the
Right.
podium. Um, so we'll get your thoughts on the number three cigar, which you smoked tonight for the first time, or at least tonight blind. I don't know if you smoked it for the first time. We'll unveil it right now. But this particular cigar was for me, from its initial release, was absolutely sensational. It's interesting because I typically enjoy a different blend type in
From
this
this
company's,
portfolio.
yeah, from this portfolio. But this was a cigar that really grabbed my attention. I've been smoking a ton of them since their initial release, and it's got a glorious 15-year bourbon barrel aged wrapper on it, and that, of course, it hails from Perdomo, and it is
Yeah.
the Perdomo 30th anniversary Connecticut Epicure. Is the number three cigar of 2025 and the first cigar on the podium. Um, I and what I meant by my vague comment a moment ago is I normally gravitate towards in Perdomo's portfolios, I normally gravitate towards their sun grown varietals. So
Mm-hmm.
they historically they when they release a blend, they traditionally come out with a Connecticut, a sun grown, and a Maduro variant
Yep.
in their particular blends. And from an overarching look at their portfolio, I tend to gravitate towards their sun-grown varietals quite a bit. Well, a couple of exceptions are the DA the double aged 12-year vintage that came out probably over 10 years ago now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I love the Connecticut. That's probably prior to the 30th release, and even comparing it to the 30th, it's probably my favorite Perdomo cigar. Really, really enjoy it. Um, and but this one really captured my attention. Smoked a ton of the sun growns. Smoked the Maduros as well, quite a few of them. But I kept returning back to the Connecticut for the Perdomo 30th year anniversary. So this was a project that,
I can see why though.
yeah,
I can see why, because it's creamy. I mean, this is that cigar has so many properties that are just like, what I call user friendly. It's just this thing that remember what I told you when we were when we were making the transition. I said I would happily continue to smoke this cigar. And I'm listen. I when I normally see something like bourbon barrel aged, I think that it's the height of gimmickry. Uh, but what I can't do is discount the results of the cigar and the softness and the complexity. In other words, living in that space where you're not there's nothing overt. You're not smoking a flavored cigar. You're not smoking something that's doctored. You're smoking a unique and distinctive approach to having added a little edge, a unique property to the one of the dominant components. And I'm kudos to Nick.
yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
Is that blend actually Nick Jr.?
Yes, this is Nicholas Perdomo the third. Him and Arthur Kemper, longtime Perdomo
Mm-hmm.
executive,
Mm-hmm.
basically another part of a member of the family, as they like to say.
Family,
They worked
exactly.
on this together to surprise Nick Perdomo Jr. um for the 30th anniversary, and they hit the nail on the head. The packaging, of course,
Mm-hmm.
is one of the things they have always going for them. Their packaging is always immaculate. It's always gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
But the cigar itself was incredible. I thought all three, like I said, I thought all three blends were universally just wonderful. And as I mentioned before, I lit up the sun grown first, as I
Yeah.
tend to do with their stuff, and I really enjoyed it. And still really enjoy it. But after I started smoking the Connecticut, I just couldn't get enough of it. And
Mm-hmm.
the Maduros are never a miss for me. This is an interesting conversation that I've gotten to with both, uh, my colleagues in media, but also with um, even the Perdomo family as well. It's not that the Maduros are a miss for me. They just like the sun grown in Connecticut. They're so good that it's almost like I forget about the Maduro.
There's a subtlety to
Yeah.
what they do. I can tell you this. I'm going to go out and find the sun-grown version of this to make a comparison.
Mhm. Yeah, I really enjoyed this blend. I thought they hit a home run with it. It was
Mm-hmm.
fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
speaking of the Maduro, this the Perdomo 30th anniversary Maduro was the number one cigar of the year for Coop last year. So that also gives high praise there as well too. I will also say it's worth noting that Coop was guessing that the Gold Star was going to be my number one cigar of the year, so he was just disappointed when it came off the
Yeah.
board at number four. But
Mm-hmm.
um, but I'm sitting in good company with the 30th the Perdomo 30th anniversary, because all three
Yeah.
blends actually, for Coop specifically, all three blends. The Maduro was the number one cigar of the year. The Connecticut was number seven. And if I remember correctly, the Sun Grown also made the list, I believe, at 22 last year. So all three of the 30th
Wait, you're
anniversaries
saying,
was great.
yeah, he so but that was in his top 30, right? That was the
Correct.
idea.
Yeah, his top
So
30.
the number one was the Maduro.
Correct.
But that I think that speaks to Coop's preference in the kind of flavor that the wheelhouse that it represents.
Yeah.
His portion of the color wheel, if you will, of the range of flavors.
Yeah, I was surprised if you had told me these are the spots that all three of these
Mm-hmm.
get. I would have
Mm-hmm.
I would have guessed the Maduro at number one because he tends to like their Maduros.
Yeah.
I would have absolutely flip-flopped the Sun-Grown in Connecticut for 7 and 22.
Mm-hmm.
I did not think the
Right.
Connecticut would have been his preference over the two Connecticut Sun-Grown. Just
Mm-hmm.
knowing the profiles that he tends to like from Perdomo.
But the cigar stated made its own case,
Correct. Yeah,
right? In other
absolutely.
words, that's why he picked what he did.
So, longtime supporter of the show and fan of the show, Jay Davis is watching, of course. Blue Smoke of Dallas. He is one of those retailers we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about. Hey, if you hang out at Blue
Mm-hmm.
Smoke of Dallas, have Jay pick you a cigar. Tell him to take the label off, enjoy it, and enjoy the experience. It'll be one to remember. But he was talking. He likes the Sun Grown actually over the Connecticut,
Yeah,
and then the Maduro.
that's what I'm saying. I'm going to go out and find it. But you're exactly right. Jay Davis is a gold star tobacconist. He's at the top of the profession. So you couldn't be in better hands than walking in his shop and saying, "Hey, listen, I'm going to sit in the lounge for a little while. Would you pick a cigar for me?"
Absolutely. So, well, that is the first cigar off the podium. Um,
Yeah.
really, really great. We're going to pause before the number one. We'll do another fun segment to kind of lengthen this segment out, but let's go ahead and hop to number two. You had some very high praise things to say about the number two cigar of the year.
Yep.
Um, really enjoyed it. I had a feeling the size was going to speak well to you, as well as the blend.
Absolutely.
So this is another first. So we've had a couple of firsts this on this year's list. We had a
Yeah.
first
Ring gauge.
stage, yeah.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned before in the criterion, this has never happened until this year. A cigar
Mm-hmm.
that is not number one can return to the list in a different vitola,
Mm-hmm.
provided it adheres to the criteria. So this original cigar was released with a number of vitolas, one of
Uh-huh.
which appeared in the top 10 of last year. And then a year after its initial release, another vitola was released, and I'm very pleased to say that it is my favorite vitola out of the entire cigar line.
Portfolio.
Yeah, and yeah, and actually out of his entire portfolio as well. And it is a wonderful cigar, and there's a great story behind this too. But this is the first time that a cigar has returned in back-to-back years, and it has climbed the charts with a different vitola. So it is the number two cigar of 2025, and that is the Pastania Connecticut Justice size. So this is a
Yeah.
Corona Gorda, 5.5
Right.
by 46. One of your favorite types of
Classic
vitolas.
shape. Classic shape.
Yeah. And obviously, just basing it on comparing your notes so the Perfecto or Torpedo was the number seven cigar last year. And you enjoyed it, but obviously not as much as you enjoyed this Vitola.
No,
So
not even close.
yeah. So almost yeah, I think almost a night and day comparison for you, a little in terms of
Yes.
experience.
One
So
was I thought one was a little flat, and it didn't hit me the right way. And again, maybe that's the circumstance, but it would that cigar could never be as low as number seven, regardless of what I thought number seven last year. This cigar could never sink down to that. That's a beautiful cigar.
yeah, the this cigar for me when it was first released, and I smoked it for the first time was absolutely fantastic. And this was actually before he was a glint in my eye, which is interesting. So the
Mm-hmm.
cool the feel good part of this story is the size, the Justice
Yeah.
is named for Mike Stefankevich's son. Um, and there's a great story behind that, but it's also cool because my son who just turned 1 on December 22nd, his name is also Justice. So
Congratulations,
when my
birthday.
Justice was born over a year ago, Mike was very generous and a beautiful gesture, gifted me a box of these. I had been smoking them long before he gave me that box, and have been smoking them long
Mhm.
after that. But it was a beautiful gesture to commemorate the birth of
Yeah.
my son, Justice. So,
Generous and thoughtful.
yes, very much so. And so I'm pleased that it is the first ever repeat on the top 10 cigar list, and I was really excited that it placed so highly for a number of reasons. Deserving, because the blend is so amazing and it smokes incredible, but also very deserving in the sense that um, um, it's just a wonderful blend, but it's also got a great story behind it on two fronts. So
Yeah. All right. Do me a favor. I know we got another segment to go in, and we have to focus on one too. But I need to take a break for real quick. I'm going to get something for myself.
sure,
Go ahead and let people
yeah,
listen.
we'll do a recap.
If you want, while I'm gone, tell them a little bit about what we're going to do at the end of the month.
Sounds good. So
Okay. I'll be right
absolutely.
back.
So we'll do a recap and unveil what we're going to be doing at the end of the month here. So if you guys, I know a lot of you guys are coming in a little bit late to the show, and I really appreciate all the live viewership tonight. So if you're just tuning in, the number 10 cigar of the year was the Bentley uh, White Edition Robusto. Number 9 was the Cohiba Riviera Perfecto. The number 8 cigar was the Aladino Fuma Noche from JRE Tobacco. Number 7 was the Blackwork Studio Rorschach Sumatra. Number 6 was the Trinidad Espiritu number 3 Robusto by Altadis USA. The number 5 was the Grand Habano Corojo number 7 Toro. The number 4 cigar of the year was the United Gold Star Robusto. Number 3 was the Perdomo 30th anniversary Connecticut Epicure. The number 2 cigar of the year was the Pestana Connecticut Justice, which is a Corona Gorda, 5.5 by 46. And that was the cigar that we just unveiled and we're just talking about. So congratulations to um, all the cigar makers, manufacturers, and everything so far. As we've gone through this list, we still have uh, um, to go to number 1, which we'll be unveiling here in a little bit. But George was alluding to what we've got planned for the end of this month. So we didn't want to put this all into one show. As you imagine, this show has already gone long, and it would have been cool. But we've had so much fun with this experiment over the years that we really wanted to kind of expand it. So we're going to lump this into our Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust curveball segment. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter. Since the company's inception, Steve Sock has been knocking them out of the park. Count them up. We're up to 10 consecutive years of the consensus top 3. Congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. So later this month, y'all, this is what we're going to do. We're going to turn the tables a little bit on what we do here every year with our top 10. We're going to expand on what we've been doing together, George Brightman and I. And on the 25th of this month, George has sent over blind cigars for me. Now, not just blind cigars of just random choice, but he took my criteria and actually reversed it. So these are limited edition cigars that he's focused on throughout the year that I normally wouldn't look at in terms of where they would place in my top 10 because they wouldn't qualify. And he has sent me them blind. So I'm going to be doing the same thing that he did for me the past few years. And I'm going to be smoking these cigars blind. And then on the 25th, we're going to be unveiling his limited edition favorites from the past year and give my opinions on them, how they're smoked, how they did, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. So we're building on this concept that we created. This is our 4th year that we've done our top 10 unveiling this way. George has been kind enough. It started off as just an initial off the cuff on a whim. hey, what do you think of this idea? George loved it. Couldn't believe it. And sent him all of my cigars blind that year, and we built on that for the last few years. And so this is our first major step of expansion on this particular project and experiment. And he has sent me some limited edition cigars that I will be smoking blind and giving my assessment on. And we'll be doing an unveiling of those particular cigars on the 25th of this month. So, um, George got through doing a recap and explaining what we're going to be doing on the 25th. Um,
Great.
which really excited to receive those cigars
Yeah.
and we'll be smoking them blind leading up to it. How many did you send me?
I sent you 10,
Okay.
but I was forget honorable mention or anything else like that. I'm sending you another batch on Monday, tomorrow actually. Um, so it'll be a follow up. I can't decide whether it's going to be 4 or 5, but I want you to evaluate them all, and we'll if you wanted to, we could say, okay, out of everything you sent, I want to do these 10 or something like that. That's up to you in that sense. But and maybe your points will make that possible. But so I'm really, really excited to do this. First of all, I want to say thank you for including me in this every year because I really enjoy it. And as much as anything, I enjoy teasing it out with you, why and how these things arrived at their status. But as you know, I always said, listen, I want to. I want to add another phase. My idea is let me build a collection of what I think are the exotic and expensive and out of reach. And not everything is, they're not all. I'm not sending you, a batch of $100 cigars exclusively because price shouldn't be a consideration. Availability is what defines, to my way of thinking, when somebody says, "Oh, it's a limited cigar." Either by virtue of distribution, like the limited number of outlets, the limited production, but the things that I'm sending you are masterpieces of cigar making, and there I can't think of anybody that I would rather enjoy those with in a way like we're doing now, which is completely critical. So we'll switch chairs in terms of how we're doing it. But so I went in search of something to we'll maybe even talk a little bit more about it on the 25th. I normally, I do a dry January, right? But this year, especially once I tasted that, I said I'm going to make this what I call a damp January because tonight and on the 25th, I'm going to have a little sip with you of something. And this is just you can see I've been. This is a seal box. I'll tell you a little bit more about seal box later, and maybe
Mhm.
another date. But this is a limited release. You see, it's called Humidor Blend. This is ridiculous. Most cigar blend whiskeys are overpriced and underperformed. This is an absolute delight. It is so marvelous, and when I lit this cigar up, the first thing I said to myself was, I know what's going to make this cigar even better. And it's right here. Just a little sip of this humidor blend.
Nice. Fantastic.
So, cheers to you.
Cheers.
And
Thanks,
again,
George.
my thanks for having me. What is that, a can of Dr. Pepper? Diet Dr. Pepper?
No, it's I don't drink soda actually. This is
Neither do
list
I.
but it funnily enough though, this is root beer flavored sparkling water.
Cool.
So from Liquid Death. Um but yeah, I
Catchy name.
yeah. It certainly is. They do have a Dr. Pepper flavored one as well.
Mhm.
That I enjoy. But this is the root beer flavored one. Um
All right. So, we've celebrated number three. It's the temperature's dropping even more. Sorry, I'm buttoning up. I felt like I almost wanted to go get hand warmers to to hold. But anyway,
Yeah.
we celebrated number three and number two.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So the time has come. Let's go ahead and unveil it, and we'll get your thoughts. I know we didn't get to smoke too much of it, uh, but this is a running experiment that we've played with over the last few years about when to light up the number one cigar of the year and everything. So,
Yeah.
but for the first time ever, I'm actually going to be reviewing the box instead of the cigar because I'm actually smoking the one loose cigar. This is but I have smoked plenty of boxes of this particular cigar. And interestingly enough, like number nine in the Cohiba Riviera, this particular company had two cigars in the running to make the top 10 and to actually be both. They both would have probably finished podium if they were eligible, but only one cigar can make it.
Uh-huh.
And it was the number one cigar of the year for 2025. And I'm pleased to give it to none other than Christoph Cigars for the Viente 20th anniversary Toro size, and it is my number one cigar of the year for 2025. This is my latest box purchased from Christoph Cigars, and I'll be smoking through this over the next couple of weeks because I just can't get enough of this particular cigar. It is fantastic. Um, you know, this is the second time that Christoph has made the list. This is the second number one cigar of the year that it has gotten. Excuse me, third time that Christoph has made the list.
Her.
Yes, third. Second time it's been number one. The Guardrail appeared in the top 10 a couple of years ago. You happened to smoke that one as well.
Yeah.
But the I think this company has been absolutely on a tear the last few years. I think they've been making some of the best cigars on the market, some best cigars of their history. I've been a fan of the brand for a long time. But this particular blend was just absolutely sensational. As I mentioned, there was another cigar that was in the ranking, and that was in the running rather to make the top
Mm-hmm.
10, and it would have been a podium cigar too if this cigar didn't exist, and that was the Tres Compadres cigar that they released around the same
Mm-hmm.
time. But after much smoking and much internal debate amongst
Internal
myself.
debate.
Yes, the Viente 20th anniversary Toro uh, reigns supreme and is my number one cigar of 2025.
So congratulations to them
Yes.
and to you for making. I mean, listen, you are a champion of Christoph,
Mhm.
and you should be recognized in that way. Uh, this is a uh, so as you've seen by my reactions and the things that are there, it's a little bigger ring gauge than I would choose, and I wouldn't necessarily go like. Let's put it this way: when I opened all 10 up and lined up and said, "Oh, I'm going to look forward to smoking this and this and this and this," and then there were a couple. I'm like, "Okay, sure, I'm going to do that." I did not say to myself, "Oh, that's easy, the number one cigar," right? And I because I wasn't I at that time I wasn't even looking at what your markings were on the bags or anything like that. I was just spread them out and looking at the cigars. But having said that, this is a cigar that has a completely different personality than what it's presents when you just open it up and look at it. And I remember I said to you, it's an evil looking cigar. This is a badass. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna tire to the train tracks, and it's not my. I just I don't walk in a humidor and say to myself, let me find the biggest, blackest cigar that I can, the darkest, oiliest wrapper, or anything like that. I like to go in humidors and let the cigars talk to me. I like to let, like look at what's there and evaluate. So by no means is this my first choice. On the other hand, um, I'm guilty of is the same kind of thing that my friends that I was trying to de-snob in the blind tasting was you're guilty of overlooking a great cigar based on a bias which has nothing to do with the properties of the cigar, but instead with your own, just a purely visual observation and an automatic characterization. And I got to say, I'm 100% wrong. This is a lovely cigar with a lot of delicate notes in it. This is not some powerhouse that smashes you in the face and says, "Oh, we're smoking now." It's really like the way I'm a little further than you probably because but um, it's not powerful in the sense of overly heavy body. It's finesse. I haven't done a full retro yet, but I will say this: the one thing I'll say is that yes, this has a very a white ash, but it's very loose. It's falling apart. I've already dropped ashes on the floor and on myself with this, but none of that takes away from the fact that this is a really nicely balanced smoke. It's giving me a lot of different flavors. There are a lot of things going on, and sadly, my honest, neutral evaluation has to stop there because I'm smoking it with this, and the combination is marvelous.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask you how the pairing went.
Yeah, right. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think what really, Glenn Case and um, the Christoph family have really put together some, like I said, some really fantastic blends. I think in the last 5 years, I think it's probably been
They've
the
come
best
into their
five.
own.
Yeah, I think it's been
They've
the
come
best
into
five
their
years of
own.
their history. I've been a smoker of their stuff for a long time, but I think this is where I can honestly say that the a lot of the cigars that they've been releasing over the last few years have just really kind of transcended their own um capability, potential, whatever you want to call it, just because they've been really, really, really pronounced and just that next level of for me for flavor, for performance, and a real interesting blending. He's used everything from um, Zimbabwe tobacco. They've also used a lot of tobaccos that you would think of, like you were talking about, this is an evil looking cigar, but if you're smoking it, I mean, this isn't knock you in the dirt,
It's not. It
pound you
is
down.
not. This is a gentle cigar.
Mhm.
This is an easy cigar to sit with and enjoy. This is not a challenge. This is not like, oh, this cigar is bigger than you, are you up to smoking this or anything like that. This is a lovely cigar.
Yeah, it really is. And I've been really pleased with that. Been really, I've smoked so many of these.
Listen,
It's
think about it from this is purely, an observation from a distance, but this cigar obviously outpointed the cigar that's named for your son.
Yeah.
So come on, man. It had to do something to bump number two. Now, I will say this. I'm only, it's at cruising speed and I'm enjoying it and we're sitting here and I like I said, I love doing this with you, but I will tell you this. I'm enjoying this a lot. I'm appreciating what it is. I'm appreciating your uh, nominating this to be the number one spot, putting it in that, and I want to get the rest of it. But right now, again, as we talked about 6, 7 before, um, I would myself, I would reverse it. I would put 2-1. In other words, I would make number two my number one, and this would be number two or number three. Like I
Yes.
don't know what this is going to. I'm waiting to see what else happens, but I might even creep Nick's cigar up over this.
Yeah, I think I mean from what I know from your palate for the most part, I figured you would prefer those two over I'm really glad really I was really pleased with a number of your observations from the top 10.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to send you the Cohiba and the Grand Habano again. I think
Yeah, because I want to smoke what I think are perfect examples of them not flawed. I just think that's bad luck.
yeah.
By the way, one thing I'll tell you and our audience, I have a history. I walk in humidors all the time and look for the wounded cigars. I'll take the one that has the fucked up cap or the broken foot or a little crack or something like that because way long ago, a Jamaican cigar maker told me one time when we were looking. He was teaching me how to roll cigars, but we were looking at tobacco and sorting things, and he goes, see that flaw right there?" He says, "That's the wrapper that I choose to put on the cigar that I'm going to smoke myself while I work." He said, I take these things that have minor imperfections and I make my blend to satisfy myself with them. And ever since then, I've been like, I'm the champion of the orphan cigar. I'm the guy that's like, oh, this is, nobody's paying attention to it, or it's, it has some imperfection. There's a big vein, or the cap isn't right, or there's a crack in the wrapper somewhere. It's like, give me that cigar. I'm going to smoke that because I want to give love. Basically, I want to respect the work of every cigar roller on the planet. And I think that cigar makers in general don't get enough appreciation for the fact that they dedicate themselves to working with farmers and creating tobacco, fermenting and blending and creating personal statements. And we're all guilty of, celebrating the heroes and the legends and the let's say the overachievers. In other words, the humidor stars are easy to pick out and to recognize and to say, oh, this is great, and this is great, and this is great, because it's universal. That's the way it is. But there are all kinds of cigar makers that are doing remarkable things that don't get the love. They don't get the attention. They don't have the prime spots in the humidor, and they don't have a hype machine rolling for them. And by the way, in a way, I fit Christoph into that. Another community of cigar makers. Oh, great.
Yeah,
So,
keep going, George. Sorry about
are we
that.
good? Are we back? Are we
Yeah,
back
yeah, yeah.
live?
Yep. Sure.
I hope people didn't lose the thread, but
No,
I,
people were listening to you. I was just out, obviously, so no big deal.
no problem. I just want to say that I really value somebody who takes a walk through a given retailer's cigar humidor and eyeballs all the shelves. They look at the loser locations and the neglected corners and tries to discern what's there. We are in an extraordinary period. There is so much great tobacco being grown, and there are so many interesting people trying to make personal statements with their cigars where they're saying, this is something different, but it's consistent with our cigar making philosophy. We're trying to hit a price point, we're trying to hit a flavor, we're trying to hit whatever it may be, whatever motivates them. All of us are spoiled for choices right now, and I applaud the fact that you have made this list focus on the things that are available in cigar store shelves that maybe the whole world isn't beating a path to, that maybe everybody isn't going, oh my God, you have to get this. what I started to say was that the Espiritu, the Trinidad Espiritu, is showing up on a lot of lists, but I think that's because of a real effort, right? It isn't just that a bunch of different people went, "Oh my God, this is a great cigar." No, they got gifted examples of the cigar, and when that happens, it's a little bit hard to separate your judgment of that from the reality
Mhm.
of how it might fit in the spectrum of great or good. Anyway, that's not to take anything away from that cigar, as you can tell by my notes on it.
Mhm.
But I think that you have made this focus of excuse me, I'm sorry.
Didn't mean to take your breath.
You've
Didn't
made
mean
it
to
your
take your breath
mission.
away.
Yeah, right, exactly. You've made it your mission to identify these players in this middle ground who are consistently offering cigars that are great quality at a fair price, and there's no there's no barrier to getting them.
Well, thank you, George. I really appreciate it. And this has been, like I said, it's been a fun experiment over the years, and I'm really excited that we're expanding it on the 25th with some
Mm-hmm.
of the cigars you're going to be sending me blind. So,
I'm
dude,
really looking forward to it.
to give a last recap of this year of 2025's top 10 cigars for Elos Fumar Takes, we have the number 10.
Do it.
Well, actually, we've unveiled all of them, so we'll just start from the top. The
Yeah,
Christoph
yeah.
Diente 20th Anniversary Toro is the number one cigar of 2025. Um, Fantastic blend from Glen Case and the Christoph family. Number two
And
cigar of the year.
I love the fact that you're what you're showing us is proof positive that you're voting with your own dollars,
Oh yeah,
right? In other words, you that's your commitment to it. That's beautiful.
absolutely. So the number two cigar of the year was the Pastania Connecticut Justice. Uh, the number three cigar was Perdomo 30th Anniversary Connecticut Epicure. Number four was the United Gold Star Robusto. Number five was the Gran Habano Corojo number seven Toro. Number six was the Trinidad Spiritu number three Robusto. Number seven
Yeah.
was the Blackworks Studio Rorschach Sumatra Petite Robusto. Uh,
Oh Lord.
Number eight was the Aladino uh, Fuma Noche by JRE Tobacco. Number nine was the Cohiba Riviera Perfecto. Number 10 cigar was the Bentley White Edition Robusto. Um, all of this year's top 10 cigars were procured a number of different ways over the year and a half, over the last 18 months from a variety of purveyors and retailers. But the top 10 cigars of the year that I sent over to George were secured from various retailers across the country, including Michael's Tobacco of Euless, Blue Smoke of Dallas, Corona Cigar Company, Cigar Hustler, Two Guys Smoke Shop, and also Lake Worth Cigars. So if you're in those particular areas, some of them also do have availability to purchase online. Check them out. They are fantastic retailers and provide some amazing cigar varieties.
Vote with your feet and your wallet. Go there, give them your business, and buy cigars from them.
Absolutely. So, was in Orlando this past week myself, and I got to stop in at
Saw
Corona
Jeff.
Cigar Company. Yep, and that's always a good time. My first experience in the downtown location at Orlando. I have never been to the downtown location before. I've been to Sand Lake a number of times. Been to Lake Mary. I've been to the Tampa store. But my next one on the list I need to check out is his newest location in Sarasota. Um,
Yeah.
but it was a fantastic week. Got to go there with my fiance Frankie.
Oh, cool.
She really enjoyed a cigar as well, and but she also enjoyed the amazing cocktails that they had at Corona Cigar
Yeah,
Company.
exactly.
So, and was very impressed. I've told Jeff was very impressed by the whiskey selection specifically.
Mhm.
So, well, that'll do it, everybody. That'll absolutely do it. That was our top 10 cigars of 2025. We're going to be expanding this experiment, as we said, on the 25th, January 25th. George and I will be talking about the cigar selection that he sent me. So we'll be switching chairs, as he said so eloquently a few minutes ago. And so I'm really excited to do that and continue to expand this experiment. We have PCA President and Executive Director Joshua Habursky next week, and we're going to be taking a break on the 19th. I have a day job, and we are doing our company offsite, where I'll be joining them on that Sunday evening. So I won't be available to do a show. But then the following week, the 25th, I'll be sitting down with George and we'll be smoking some cigars. So, and I'll be giving my opinion of them as well. So, congratulations to all the manufacturers, brand owners, and of this year's top 10. Congratulations to Glenn Case for the #1 cigar of the year, Jared Trudeau, and all the Christoph family for the #1 cigar of the year, Mike Stevankevich, his brother Greg, and all the people that make up the Postania family for #2 cigar of the year, and of course, Nicholas Perdomo Jr., Nick Perdomo III, Arthur Kemper, Janine Perdomo, the entire Perdomo family for the #3 cigar of the year, the Perdomo 30th anniversary Connecticut Epicure. So, as we are all fond of saying here at Los Fumar Takes, that'll do it here. I'm Bear Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. If you're going to check this out later on wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, you're listening to us courtesy of Grand Habano Cigars. Honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today, courtesy of our friends at Grand Habano Cigars. Constructive criticism only, folks. We always take it. Obviously, we had some technical difficulties tonight with some internet connection. That's okay. But to the guy who left me a 1-star review and said that my audio levels are terrible, hopefully you're still listening, and hopefully you can hear me. We've been working on that. But to the guy who left me a 1-star review and left me nothing, as I tell you every week, fuck you. I've got nothing for you. I can't help you. Can't help you if you don't tell me anything. So. We appreciate it. If you're tuning in to us live on Facebook, like we broadcast nearly every Sunday night at 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern, or later on our YouTube channel, our video broadcast is courtesy of our good friends at Foundation Cigar Company. We really appreciate all those likes, shares, and comments. Keep them coming. We loved our audience staying up late with us tonight as we stayed up to the wee hours of Monday morning of January 6th. Across most of the country, or excuse me, Monday, January 5th, across most of the country. But we started this on Sunday, January 4th. So for everyone out there, as always, I'm Bear Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. He's George Brightman. Guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.
Congratulations. Well done, man.